Welcome in to another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton Wasserman right here, breaking down the biggest results from the final weekend of the college football regular season. And Dalton, the final guy that you saw on that intro right there, Lane Kiffin, will be announcing his decision during the show as well. So break down that news when we get it, but a lot of games to talk about from what was a very entertaining Week 14.
It was entertaining. And then at the end of the day, outside of Texas winning on Friday, there really wasn't a whole lot of chaos. Most everything in the rankings is staying pretty status quo, but you do get chaos in the ACC, including potentially the ultimate chaotic scenario of Duke possibly winning the ACC. Texas A&M losing had plenty of consequences in the SEC, but for the most part, when you look at especially the at-large part of the playoff race, things kind of stayed stagnant, and I thought there might be more chaos on rivalry weekend, and we didn't get it.
I told you in the preview when I had all those massive spreads. It's like, hey, I'm telling you, I just think it's going to be a lot of favorites winning this weekend.
Sometimes the best teams just take care of business. Credit to them, all of them, especially with certain ones having a lot of distractions.
Honestly, the most chaos might have been Marty Smith just standing in front of that Ole Miss sign for 12 hours yesterday, just trying to decipher what's going on with Lane Kiffin.
Credit to him. What do you think he does in between, man?
I don't know. Hopefully a lot of protein bars or something just to keep him like sustenance or something, man. Because that poor guy was just standing there during it seemed like every halftime show yesterday. But lots to break down here live on this show, and a lot of the numbers we're going to use live on this show are available to you guys, the PFF Plus subscription at subscribe.pff.com, and you can still get it for 40% off right now when you use the promo code Black Friday, and that sale ends tomorrow. So you want to use this promo code right now to get 40% off the best subscription in sports, to get access to the same data, grades, and analytics that every single NFL team uses, every single college football team uses. You get also access to our 2026 NFL mock draft simulator. You get access to the best fantasy football tools, the best betting tools that are available on the market as well. Again, all of it for 40% off right now when you use the promo code Black Friday, and that deal ends tomorrow. So use this promo code right now to get PFF Plus 40% off with the promo code Black Friday. All right, let's dive into the first game in our review. That is number 1 Ohio State finally getting the monkey off its back and beating Michigan 27-9, convincing win over the Michigan Wolverines. Ohio State's first win over Michigan in 6 years. Let's go over the highest grade player, starting off with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Highest grade player was actually the quarterback, Julian Sayin, 83.5 grade for the redshirt freshman. Defensive tackle, Katie McDonald, who's been a star all year for them, 80.2. Safety, Caleb Downs, 80.1. Running back, Bo Jackson, 78.7. Linebacker, Arvell Reese, who might be the number 1 overall pick in the draft, 76.8. And edge rusher, Kenyatta Jackson Jr., 75.8. Let's go over to Michigan with their highest graded players in the loss. Linebacker Jimmy Rolder, 78.4. Jair Hill, the corner, 75.1. Defensive tackle Rayshawn Benny, 73.9. Also at 73.9 is wide receiver Donovan McCulley. Defensive tackle Damon Payne, 73.4. And true freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood with only a 57.4 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
For me, and it's why I highlighted the run game instead of saying and the receivers in the preview, if Ohio State continues to play with this level of offensive balance, I don't think they're losing. I don't think they're going to lose a game. I think they're going to run the table and win the whole thing. And maybe they were the favorite to do so anyway, but the development of their running game since their bye week and now over the last 5 games has, I think, been the biggest development on their team late in the season, especially the emergence of the true freshman tailback, Bo Jackson. 186 rushing yards as a team in this game. Their 5th straight over 160. Their 3rd straight game with at least 140 yards after contact. contact, their 4th straight game with at least 8 missed tackles forced on the ground. If this team has balance, and Wink Martindale was showing a lot of too high safety looks, and rightfully so, with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate healthy on the outside, and even then they got beat a few times early in the game. The Jeremiah Smith controversial touchdown, which I actually agree with the call of it being upheld, because if we don't already know what a catch is, now if we don't know what a fumble is, we have a real problem. But I think the fact that Ohio State can turn to their run game and win time of possession and grind the clock out and give themselves balance against too high looks on defense, if they're going to continue to run for over 160 yards every week like they have the last 5, I really am not sure how you beat this team. There's just too much balance. The passing game is too good, and it's too threatening to secondaries, because the second you want to come down and put 7 or 8 in the box and really get single high and try to load up to stop the run, you got maybe the 2 best receivers in the country on the outside. So I just, that's what I come out of this with, is there was too much balance. Sayan's too good right now, still the highest graded quarterback in the country, still love him as a Heisman favorite in my book, and then the run game and the addition of Bo Jackson to this offense has made them borderline unstoppable.
Yeah, Ohio State's offense was very balanced. Michigan's was not. Michigan only negative .313 EPA per run in this game. I mentioned in the preview, Michigan is 9-0 this year when they run for at least 175 yards, and they're 0-2 when they didn't hit that number. Ohio State, meanwhile, never allowed a single team to rush for even 170 yards on them this year, and Michigan only at 108 yards on the ground, the fewest all year for the Wolverines. And in the second half, Dalton, 4 carries for Michigan, 0 yards for Michigan, 0 rushing yards for Michigan in the entire second half of this game. Now, of course, they were throwing the ball for most of that second half. They only ran the ball 4 times in that second half, but they couldn't find anything on the ground really in this game. And only 0.9 yards before contact per attempt. Jordan Marshall re-aggravating his shoulder injury was killer to Michigan really in this game. He was averaging 7.4 yards after contact per attempt on only his 7 carries of the day. If he stayed healthy the whole game, maybe it was a different story for Michigan's run game. But with him going down with an injury, with Justice Haynes already down with an injury as well, Bryson Cusdahl just could not provide the juice that Michigan needed on the ground. That, combined with Ohio State building a big lead in the second half, led to the Wolverines only having 23 total attempts on the ground, while the Buckeyes, like you mentioned before, they had 47 carries in this game, more than double what Michigan had in this one. And again, we mentioned in the preview, Michigan's going to want to rely on their run game to lead them to victories, and they could not do it against what's been one of the best run defenses in college football this year.
I think it's a good call that this game may have been somewhat different if Justice Haynes was healthy, if Jordan Marshall was fully healthy. You had the 2 backs really getting after, because it was clear early in the game that Michigan did not trust Bryce Underwood to try to carry them through this game. And I get it. Against this defense, you don't want to expose them. You don't want to expose them to everything Matt Patricia is going to throw at him. But eventually, your quarterback is going to have to win you a game like this. Maybe next year or the year after is the year for that, where Underwood and the passing game as a whole is ready, right? We've seen, obviously, Andrew Marsh emerge on the outside, but they need a better depth of passing weapons. They need better pass protection. I think this is a work in progress, and it just shows you right now where Michigan is at as an offense, right? They're kind of one-dimensional. Underwood has shown us flashes. I don't think he's the problem by any means. I think in the passing game, he and Marsh are the 2 best players by far, but they need more depth, and they got to add weapons in the offseason to play with this Ohio State team that is just absolutely rolling right now.
Definitely. Who was most impressive to you in this game?
I'm going to stay on the ground. Give me the true freshman tailback, Bo Jackson. Look, I think he showed you that in a hard game in the snow against a really good defense, he can be a workhorse, and that's going to be a theme going in throughout the playoffs, too. You're going to see good defenses, very good defenses throughout. You're going to see a really darn good defense, maybe the best run defense in the country next week against Indiana. But in this game, 22 carries, 117 yards, also added 4 catches and 49 yards as a pass catcher. When you look at the load he's taking on now, as a true freshman back, and they finally just trust him to get the job done in the backfield and be that main guy back there. I think, again, it is the difference between Ohio State just being, we think, the favorite and we think the best team in the country, but I had my concerns about them being too one-dimensional. If he gives them that second dimension, I should say if he continues to give them that second dimension, they're the best team in the country. And I don't, at that point, I don't really know how you beat this team, especially the way Sayan's throwing the ball.
Yeah, Kevin Chavez making a great point in the chat, too. Andrew Marsh only had zero catches in this game.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I mean, that's the big problem is that McCulley was one of the 5 highest graded guys, but the passing game has really been carried by Marsh lately. And if you shut him down, then Michigan just doesn't have a whole lot of other consistent options to rely on.
Yeah, I got to shout out Julian Sain, of course, the highest graded player for Ohio State in this game. He's been both of our Heisman picks for a very, very long time, and nothing changed on Saturday. I got our producer back there at Eli, who's very happy right now because he, of course, placed a big bet on Julian Sain to win the Heisman back when his odds were very, very high, and he was outstanding, I thought, in this game against Michigan. His 78.6 passing grade, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 2 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play with an 83% adjusted completion rate and 9 yards per attempt. He's the most accurate quarterback in college football and one of the most accurate we've seen, honestly, in recent memory. He was incredible. Yes, first drive, he had an interception. Didn't look great for him. But after that, he was money. It felt like the entire game. Had a couple beautiful touchdown passes to Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. A very controversial Jeremiah Smith touchdown catch, Dalton. I know you...
Not to me.
Not to you. I thought there was a very good case that it could have been a touchback, but I know that you didn't like that call.
I love the old fumble that never touches the ground. Yeah, that's the fumble that's an inch from your hand or whatever. I mean,
regardless, Julian Sain was phenomenal. Dropping dimes in bad weather as well. So great job by him. I think he's the best quarterback in college football. He should be the Heisman Trophy favorite right now. But I do think that whoever wins the Big Ten title game on Saturday between number 1 Ohio State and number 2 Indiana, whether it be Julian Sain or Fernando Mendoza, as long as they play well enough in that game, I do think the winner of that game most likely takes home the bronze stiff arm trophy.
Leads the nation in completion percentage, leads the nation in adjusted completion percentage, 3rd in the nation in touchdowns, passing touchdowns behind Fernando Mendoza and Sawyer Robertson, leads the Power 4 with 9.4 yards per attempt. I agree. I think he's been the best quarterback in college football this year. We just have yet to see him play a bad game. I mean, even in this game, he has the interception on his second throw of the game, and he comes back, and then he plays like he's played all year. He's been unbelievable, and for as long as we continue to see it week in and week out, we should just continue to expect that he's going to play elite football. It's a clean delivery. Like you mentioned, he's the most accurate quarterback in the country, and with those 2 receivers out there that he's got, he could really do no wrong right now.
It's incredible what he's got right now. So we want to shout out Bo Jackson, want to shout out Julian Sain, also want to shout out the Ohio State mascot. What an incredible performance by the mascot yesterday, by Brutus the Buckeye.
Yeah, I mean, boy.
Drawing Ohio in the snow.
If anybody was ready to break the streak, it was Brutus for sure.
Crossing out the M in the end zone as well. It's an elite performance by Brutus the Buckeye yesterday.
Brutus won the battle against the groundskeepers. That's what he did.
He did. Man. Yeah, he was as dominant as any player for Ohio State. It's really the highest graded player, I would say, was Brutus the Buckeye in the win for Ohio State over Michigan. The first win over Michigan for Ohio State since 2019. All right, next game that we've got in our review is number 16 Texas beating number 3 Texas A&M on Black Friday, 27-17, and making a pretty interesting conversation now for a 9-3 Texas to potentially be the first 3-loss team to make it as an at-large team in the college football playoffs. Let's go over the highest grade players, starting off with the Texas Longhorns. Highest grade player, linebacker Leona Lafau, 86.9. Cornerback Kobe Black, 81.9. Edge rusher Ethan Burke, 76.1. Tight end Jack Endries, 75.4. Offensive tackle Trevor Gooseby, 72.4. And Arch Manning with a 70.6 grade in the win. Let's go over to Texas A&M with their highest grade players in the loss. Tyreek Chappelle, the corner, 73.9. Linebacker Torian York, 73.3. Defensive tackle Tyler Onyedim, 72.7. Ruben Fothery II, 72.3. The offensive tackle. Tight end Theo Mellon Orstrom, 71.2. And Marcel Reed with only a 55.1 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
This game offensively for Texas was a microcosm of their season. First half, struggling to play physical, struggling to run the ball, only 3.1 yards per play, 57.9 PFF grade on offense as a team, and you just felt like they couldn't get the engine running. Their defense was playing darn good enough to win this game. They went into halftime down 10-3, and it was just a struggle, and it was kind of like we were asking in the first half of the season, what is Texas going to do to get this offense running more consistently? Well, they came out out. They got Trey Wisner out in space. They were running to the outside. They were using a lot of motion to their advantage. I thought Texas A&M really struggled on defense to react to motion and everything Steve Sarkisian was throwing at them pre-snap. 9.5 yards per play, Max, in the second half of this game. It's because they got the run game rolling. This offense this year, look, in years past, they've had great running backs, great offensive lines. They get downhill on you in the run game, and then they use play action to beat you over the top. This is a team that gets east and west, whether that's getting outside with the run game, the screen game, getting the ball out quickly to the perimeter, and then after that, they respond by taking deep shots down the middle of the field. But for the most part, it's an east and west offense. That's what they figured out the second half of the season. They figured it out in this game that they could beat Texas A&M on the perimeter, and it's really, to me, exactly how Texas has gotten better in the second half of the year, finally accepting that, look, we don't have an elite offensive line this year. We're not going to run between the tackles at an elite clip against teams like this. We got to figure out how to get our athletes out in space, how to use Arch Manning's legs occasionally in the run game, as you saw with the big touchdown in the fourth quarter. So I think it really is, to me, Texas throughout the season. The second half of this season has found their identity, and in the first half they were searching for it, and in the second half of this game they found their identity once again. This is how they've been winning ball games lately on offense.
Yeah, my stat is Marcel Reed had a 49.7 passing grade from a clean pocket in this game. Usually that's kind of the passing grade you see when you're under pressure. From a clean pocket, you usually want to be somewhere in the 80s. He was at 49.7 in this one. And listen, Dalton, I took a lot of heat. We both took a lot of heat when we picked Texas to win this game. And I took a lot of heat when I said Texas had the better quarterback in this game. This is why I said that. Marcel Reed, his underlying metrics have been a huge problem for Texas A&M this year. His decision-making and his accuracy have been issues all year. They've really just been masked by the fact that Texas A&M had an outstanding supporting cast at wide receiver, at offensive line, and also in the defense. Right now, Marcel Reed is 117th in America in uncatchable pass rate this year. Over 25% of his passes have been charted as uncatchable this year. That is directly in front of guys like John Mateer and Lenora Sellers. Marcel Reed, 17 big-time throws, 18 turnover-worthy plays now on this season. He has more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws. One of his bad interceptions late in the game was from a clean pocket as well. Don't get me wrong. Arch Manning was not phenomenal in this game, right? He was very okay overall, pretty solid, I would say, on the day for Arch Manning. But he was better than Marcel Reed, which is why Texas ultimately won this game. And listen, I don't want to sound like a hater for Marcel Reed. He's a very, very talented player, especially as a runner right now. But I still think there's a lot of work to be done for him as a passer. And he's still a very young player, too, who probably will come back to Texas A&M next year and develop him further, maybe become the Heisman candidate that so many people think he was this year. I never personally bought into that Heisman hype for Marcel Reed, but I will not deny he's got the talent to eventually become a candidate for the Heisman Trophy. But right now, this current form of Marcel Reed is an average passer at best who's been boosted up by a supporting cast and a very inconsistent quarterback overall. And the South Carolina game illustrated that with a horrendous first half, and then I will admit an incredible second half from Marcel Reed to lead the comeback in that game. He's been very inconsistent this year for A&M. He has 4 games this year with a 70 or higher PFF grade, 4 games below a 60 as well. So 4 games where he's been good and 4 games where he's really struggled. So I think Marcel Reed overall has been an inconsistent quarterback for A&M right now, and I think he has flashes of greatness, but they're few and far between right now. I think if Texas A&M does not win the national title or what have you, one of the biggest reasons why might be Marcel Reed, and of course the run defense, which has struggled this year as well. But Marcel Reed, Dalton, I just think right now is an average passer at best.
And you mentioned those 4 games. Here are those 4 games, okay, and ranks in coverage grade for each of those 4 teams. South Carolina's 95th, Auburn's 115th, UTSA's 116th, Arkansas's 127th. These are 4 teams who have been giving up yards through the air all year. I'm with you. I would be worried about Reed's ability to beat one of these elite defenses, right? And we'll see where they get ranked. I would assume they're going to play a home game. They will still be top 8, but unlikely to get a bye week, especially with, outside of the Notre Dame win, really a lack of high-quality wins here. So they could be looking at being, I would say, probably number 6 or 7, I think is entirely possible here, because Texas in the second half really dominated this game. They will have a shot to win at home. They're still very good, but They need Reed to play better than he's played for most of these SEC games that they've played.
Yeah, again, talented player. Very talented player, but there's still a lot to work on with Marcel Reed right now. Dalton, who impressed you the most, though, from this game?
Look, this Texas linebacking core, without Anthony Hill the last couple of weeks, has really made some nice adjustments. You saw Leona Lafau was Texas' highest-graded player in this game. How about an 85.7 run defense grade, 11 tackles, 2 stops, really taking over as the leader in the middle of this defense. And then the last couple of weeks, I want to give a lot of credit to Trey Moore, who we've seen play mostly off the edge this year. Remember when there was like some experiment about him playing linebacker? He was kind of doing it part-time and stepping back. Well, the last 2 games, he's had to start in place of Anthony Hill at linebacker. Coverage has been a little bit of a struggle. He's not really a natural with that, as obviously a defensive end for the majority of his career, but been really good, been really instinctual in run defense, a 79.4 run defense grade in this game. So those 2 guys, Ty Anthony Smith also helping out a little bit in there, especially in coverage. So I just want to credit this linebacking core in general. Altogether, those 3 guys, 73.9 PFF grade in this game without Anthony Hill, your best player, potential first-round pick at that spot, right? So I think really the middle of that Texas defense stepped up in this game, especially in run defense with how good Moore and Lafau were up front.
Yeah, I want to go back to your stat. I'm going to go to Trey Wasner, my most impressive in this game. Took advantage of what's been kind of a vulnerable A&M run defense this year, especially on the edges. A&M in the middle of the defense is really, really good with those linebackers and the D tackles and all that, but on the edges is where they kind of struggle a little bit. And Trey Wasner, in that outside zone heavy scheme that Texas runs, he took advantage of that vulnerable A&M defense with 20 carries for 162 yards, with 107 yards after contact, over 8 yards per carry, over 5 yards after contact per carry. Texas has not had much of a run game all year, but they were able to find it in this game due to the offensive line playing pretty well against A&M, and then Trey Wasner and even Arch Manning as well. Some major carries for Texas in this game too. And really, Arch Manning was okay overall as a passer. It was him as a runner, and Trey Wasner, I thought, as a runner that led to Texas having offensive success against A&M.
Absolutely agree. And I think I want to credit Steve Sarkisian, especially in the second half of this game. I thought the play calling was outstanding. Again, the motions and the way that he found that Texas A&M was overreacting to them and then controlling them on the perimeter, I thought, in both the run and passing games. I thought it was one of the best games Sarkisian called all year once he found that rhythm in the second half.
Definitely. All right, so before we move on, probably should talk about it right now. We will talk about it later on when we get to my college football playoff bracket. 9-3 Texas with massive wins this year over A&M, over Oklahoma, over Vanderbilt. They played the closest anyone's played all year to Ohio State as well. Should they be in the playoff?
I don't believe so. I think there is a chance they're the first or second team out. We were talking yesterday about should they move ahead of Vanderbilt. I think there's a very credible case for that. I think they will move ahead of Utah based on this win in their resume. But I think I would still have Miami ahead of them. And, of course, Alabama's going to stay ahead of them for now. And if they win the SEC championship, then the at-large bids, honestly, when you look at it, if Alabama wins the SEC title, the at-large bids are kind of locked out at this point. Right?
I think even if Bama loses, they should get in.
Then you're pretty much,
I think it's done.
You're pretty much shot at that point. Yeah, unless they decide to change their mind on this Miami Notre Dame argument, right? And I think the one thing that all of those teams are also certainly not hoping for is BYU sitting there at number 11.
Yep.
They mess around and win the conference. I'm not taking Texas Tech out of the top 10 to 12 either. So I think at this point Texas will not make the playoff. I think the first 2 teams out, based on what we've seen so far in the rankings, are probably going to be, if BYU loses, we'll see where that gets into that 11, 12, 13 mix. But the first 2 at-large teams most likely out at the end of the day are probably going to be Miami and Texas, and I would have Miami ahead of Texas.
Yeah. I'll probably put Texas. So we'll get to my bracket later on in the show. I would say right now I would put Texas in over Notre Dame. I would. I think 9-3 Texas with that resume is more impressive than 10-2 Notre Dame.
I've said it the whole time. I won't sit here and say I have a massive issue. Like, Notre Dame is probably one of the 12 best teams in the country.
Yes.
Right? We know this.
Yeah.
The problem is that criteria versus the resume and the wins, when their best win is still USC, right?
Yeah.
And they beat Pitt. Miami beat Pitt by more, and Miami beat them head-to-head. And now A&M's lost. So, how does that change the dynamic of that?
Beat A&M.
But the entire time, the mistake made was putting Notre Dame at number 10 in the initial rankings when they had no reason to be there. Really, when you looked at those initial rankings, you could have easily said Notre Dame should have been 15 or 16. I think that part is on the committee for putting them that high so early and putting the precedent out there that in week 8, was it? Week 8 or 9, that, hey, if this team wins out, we're putting them in.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the right way to do it, because then once they run the table, you have no way to backtrack it and go, oh, wait a minute, Miami's right here. And then they talked about, well, if they're in the same tier of teams, then we start thinking about it. Well, now they're in the same tier of teams, and now we're not thinking about it. And Miami's still number 12. So I think that process with Notre Dame, and it's nothing against the Fighting Irish. They're really good. They're really darn good. They could, at their highest level, they could beat anybody in the country, and that's going to be their main argument is, hey, we're really darn good. We're one of the best teams. But placing them at number 10 in the initial rankings, to me, it's just the same domino, just going down over and over.
Yeah, I would.
That was the mistake.
Yeah, I would not put Notre Dame in the playoff right now. I also would not put Texas in the playoff either. For anyone in the chat saying I'm saying Texas should get in, I don't think Texas should get in right now. Now, I would also put BYU in the playoff. I don't think the committee will do that. So the problem with that is I think Texas deserves to be in more than Notre Dame right now, but I do think BYU at 11-1 should right now at least. We'll see if they lose to Texas Tech again, but right now I think they should be in the playoff as well. So that's how I personally would go about it. Texas I don't think should be in the playoff at 9-3, but I do think there's more of a case for Texas than there is for a 10-2 Notre Dame right now. Depending on, listen, if you don't like resume, if you just want to say, oh, what I think the 12 best teams are, which I get is what the committee is trying to do out there, then sure, I can hear an argument for Notre Dame. But I personally think the only way to determine who the 12 best teams are the teams that are most deserving of getting into the playoff. And I don't think Notre Dame, with their resume right now, deserves to get in over Texas in their resume right now.
And to your point about BYU, because we're not getting into really a lot of Big 12, because Arizona State's loss on Friday kind of took us out of the Big 12 is set with BYU and Texas. But to your point with BYU, now the out-of-conference isn't very impressive. They played a soft out-of-conference. But win at Arizona, that's a ranked team. They could be top 20 this week. Utah, okay, you beat number 13 in the country right now. Lost to Texas Tech, they're a top 5 team in the nation. Win by 14 at Iowa State. Cincinnati, they came here and beat Cincinnati by 12 when they were ranked at the time. They've been ranked a couple of times this year. TCU, dominant win over them. They've been ranked at certain points this year. So I think when you look at BYU, it just seems to be the disrespect of the Big 12. We've already seen this with the ACC, but there's a lot of quality wins there, and they're only losses to a top 5 team in the country. You want to talk about quality losses? What better is there? I mean, when they get into that argument, I know they got blown out, but there's plenty of other wins there to support BYU being higher than they are. Yeah,
we'll get to that later on in the show because I want to talk about BYU more when we get to the playoff bracket. But yeah, big win for Texas over Texas A&M, and at least creating conversation now for the Longhorns to potentially get in the playoff. Again, neither Dalton and I think they should get in, and I don't think they will get in at the end of the day, but there's at least a conversation now for the Longhorns with a 9-3 record overall. All right, next up, another big game that we had on Black Friday. We had number 4 Georgia beating number 23 Georgia Tech 16-9. A little more low scoring than we thought.
It was ugly. It
was ugly. Yeah, credit to Georgia Tech's defense, man, because we said in the preview that we thought the Yellow Jackets were going to struggle to get stops in this game, and they come up with a lot of stops in this game. But Georgia's defense had a little bit more and ultimately won this one. Let's go over to the highest grade players, starting off with the Georgia Bulldogs. Highest grade player was their running back, Nate Frazier, 78.2. Cornerback Ellis Robinson IV, 77.4. Linebacker Raylan Wilson, 74.6. Offensive tackle Monroe Freeling, 72.8. Wide receiver Zachariah Branch, 72.6. And Gunnar Stockton, the quarterback, 47.6. Even in a win, Stockton still struggled out there a little bit against Georgia Tech. Let's go over to Georgia Tech and their highest grade players in the loss. Linebacker E.J. Lightsey, 86.6. Taj Butler, another linebacker here, 78.1. Brett Seether, the tight end, 77.8. Jordan Vandenberg, the defensive tackle, 74.5. Linebacker Kyle Efford, 74.4. And Haynes King with a 75.3 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
To me, Georgia Tech and a lack of explosive plays. Only 6 for the game, only 3 in the first 3 quarters. Okay, 1 pass and 2 runs. Only 43 yards in this game on 12 12 off-tackle runs. So Georgia Tech loves to get off-tackle. They love to get to the edges. Georgia just did not let them do that. Only one missed tackle in run defense for Georgia. We know they're arguably the best tackling team in the country. And Haynes King only 2 for 5 on 10-plus yard throws. I just felt like this game, Georgia put Georgia Tech in a box. My most impressive guy, I'm just going to throw Glenn Schumann out there more than any individual player. I'm going to throw their defensive coordinator, Glenn Schumann, out because I think the entire game plan was, listen, we are going to make Georgia Tech play in the box. We're going to make them run between the tackles. We're going to make Haynes King play quarterback underneath and beat us with paper cuts instead of making mistakes and biting hard up on play action. We're going to sit back in zone coverage and make him keep it in front of us. An outstanding job. When you go back and watch this tape for Georgia Tech, the ball was very rarely out towards the numbers in the passing game or in the running game. The running game especially, Georgia Tech basically any given time, especially when they were playing all that option football that Georgia Tech loves to play, they were forcing the ball inside. If that means a more traditional read option, then stare down Haynes King and make him hand the football off. If it was the invert where you have the jet sweep and Haynes King is running inside, then take the jet and make Haynes King run between the tackles. This to me was a masterclass from Glenn Schumann, making all the adjustments he needed to make from last year's game when Georgia Tech really ran all over him and got outside at will. This was a game where they made Georgia Tech play within a box where they don't want to play. They don't run it between the tackles as well as they do to the outside. The ball was rarely out towards the numbers, and Georgia Tech could not find explosive plays otherwise in a different way than they normally would.
Yeah, my stats is exactly the same thing. Georgia Tech negative .435 EPA per run in this one. The bread and butter of their offense is to challenge defenses on the edges of this game, like you just mentioned, Dalton, and Georgia just did not allow that at all. Only 76 total rushing yards from Georgia Tech in this game. 45 of them came from quarterback Haynes King. So their fewest rushing yards in a game since their 2022 loss to Georgia, back when Brent Key was the interim head coach for the Yellow Jackets in that game. They averaged 3.5 yards per carry, 1.8 yards after contact per carry. Jamal Haynes and Malachi Hosley, two very talented running backs for Georgia Tech, they combined for 10 carries for 17 yards. That is all that those two running backs provided Georgia Tech on Friday. Georgia showed why it has right now the best tackling grade in college football and one of the best run defenses in college football. Georgia only missed one tackle on 22 carries for the Yellow Jackets. So like you just mentioned, Dalton, just an outstanding job from Glenn Schumann from scheming it up, the defensive line, the linebackers, even the secondary for Georgia for all contributing in run defense in this game.
I think another good way to put your stat there that you just had basically is the fewest rushing yards Georgia Tech has had with Haynes King as their quarterback.
True.
I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about this football game. That's why it was 16-9. And Georgia, look, they struggled much more offensively than we thought they would against this Georgia Tech defense. You could argue that this was maybe Georgia Tech's best defensive game of the year, considering the opponent and the fact that they only gave up 16 points. And Gunnar Stockton had, 70 passing yards? And we thought there was a chance he could come in and tear it up like he's been doing the last month and a half. But, credit to Georgia. And this is, once again, just Kirby Smart getting his team to find a way to win, being the more physical team, and his defense is a constant. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They're going to be an absolute problem, especially their run defense. You will not out-physical Georgia. If you're going to beat this defense, you better have a quarterback that comes in there and plays at a special level because the run game is not going to get it done.
Yeah, so one team could not run the ball. One team could because Nate Frazier carried this Georgia offense on his back in this one. 17 carries for 107 yards for the true sophomore tailback, a 35% forced missed tackle rate for Nate Frazier, 69 yards after contact, 4.1 yards after contact per carry. He is a bruising runner with better feet than you'd expect for a physical runner like him. All 6 of his broken tackles in the game came on 3 runs. So he was just bowling over Georgia Tech's defenders on 3 of his carries in this one. Gunnar Stockton had easily the worst game of his season, and it did not matter because Nate Frazier and the Georgia defense could carry this team on their back and lead Georgia to victory. Just a great job by Georgia for stopping the run and for running the ball in this one. I'm sure a style of victory that Kirby Smart really kind of loves.
Absolutely. And then you look at Georgia, just the one loss to Alabama this season, and if they were to turn around and beat Alabama, which I know has been a problem lately, they're going to end up in the playoff probably with the number 2 seed.
Right?
They'll probably jump ahead of the Ohio State-Indiana winner, and I would think the loser of that game to me would still be top 4. They should be, but probably number 3 and 4 instead of number 2. I think Georgia, man, they've got everything in front of them. They want to make a national title run. I do. When you talk about Ohio State, at least for us right now, being the best team in the country and to being the number 1 team really all year, Georgia has, you could argue, them and Indiana are the 2 teams with the best chance to beat them, and it's because of Kirby Smart, it's because of the pedigree, and it's because of this defense.
Definitely. Big win for Georgia, beating Georgia Tech 16-9 in Atlanta, and also Georgia will stay in Mercedes-Benz Stadium next week when they play in the SEC championship game against Alabama. Before we move on to the next game, Dalton, I want to get to a quick super chat real quick from Rolexer. Appreciate you saying Miami will jump Notre Dame. Watch what happens. I'd be all for that. I don't think they're going to do it, but I'd be all for it.
Here's the fun part, just for the sake of optics and the rankings. Okay, so right now you've got, Notre Dame at 9, right? Mm-hmm. And then Alabama, and then BYU, and then Miami. What if you get the favorites? Well, I don't know if Georgia will be favored against Alabama. We'll see. But what if you get Alabama and BYU to lose? And then you have a situation where, okay, they drop out Alabama, they'll drop out BYU for losing a Tech twice, and you have a situation where Notre Dame and Miami are right next to each other. It doesn't get any closer, and one team won head-to-head. What do we do then?
Yeah.
And is it because then that Alabama and BYU lost and they're right next to each other? Does that mean, okay, now Miami can jump them? They're that close, or are they just going to stick with what they have in the order, and at that point head-to-head basically doesn't matter? It is a good argument, but if you get the 2 higher-ranked teams in those 2 conference title games winning, and it's eventually Miami 10 and Notre Dame 9, there's going to be certainly a lot of debate there.
Yeah.
It's going to be an issue.
I still think if Alabama loses, I don't know if they should be dropped out.
Or that's the other problem too. Well, I guess then if Miami's if Miami's 10, they wouldn't have to jump them.
No.
They would just get in. Then that's the problem of you have a 3-way debate now between probably Miami, Alabama, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And you'd have all sorts of mess. And then, like last year, would Alabama be the team then left out with 3 losses?
Yeah.
Oh, one way or the other. There's a lot of combinations of things where we'd have. And then, just throwing this out there for Notre Dame, you have a scenario on the other side of that if Alabama and BYU were to win where Notre Dame might be out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a mess.
And listen, I'll say right now, because last year Alabama fans, I should say, think they got screwed by not getting in the playoff over SMU. You and I both thought SMU should have got in. And our main argument, Dalton, was you can't punish a team for playing on conference title weekend. Ironically, if Alabama loses, it's the same argument. It's like, why would we play in this game then if we're going to get punished?
But you remember the thought, and this was said out loud, that the reason SMU eventually did get in is because they tightened the gap in that game. Remember, they were down big at halftime.
Alabama did beat Georgia earlier this year.
I know that's the other fun.
So even if Georgia wins by I don't care how much, I still think
what if Georgia found a way to win by 17? What are we doing?
I don't know.
This is a problem.
There we'll go.
We have any combination of things is going to be a problem.
I do think
especially if BYU wins. If BYU wins, you have a whole another Pandora's box.
It would open a big, Pandora's box if Alabama gets left out for losing to Georgia when last year their main SMU got put in even though they lost because why would you play on conference title weekend then? So I think it's ironically the same argument for Alabama right now. Ironically,
fittingly, of course, right. This is
if Alabama fans are like, so wait a minute, you left us out last year, and now for the same reason you're bumping us out again. It's like, what's the point of this then? So I don't know. They probably feel like the committee's out to get them then if that happens. I don't know.
It's a mess.
That's what I would argue. That's how I would argue. Plus, they beat Georgia earlier in the year too. We'll get to that next week. It's going to be chaotic next week. There's a lot of teams still alive right now for the college football playoff. We'll get to the other super chat that he had actually later on. Because that actually applies to a game that we're going to be talking about in just a little bit as well. All right, next up, though, we have a big SEC game. Number 14, Vanderbilt, keeping their playoff hopes alive with a 45-24 win over number 19, Tennessee. Let's go over the highest grade players, starting off with the Vanderbilt Commodores. Highest grade player for Vanderbilt in this game was running back Cedric Alexander, 81.6. Wide receiver Trey Richardson, 76.7. Cornerback Martell Height, 74.7. Safety Marlon Sewell, 74. Cornerback Jordan Matthews, 72.2. And the quarterback Diego Pavia, 80.8. Tennessee, highest grade players. I mentioned before in the preview, they needed Joshua Joseph to have a big game, and he did. 89.7 grade, but it was not enough for Tennessee in this one. The edge rusher, cornerback Ty Redmond, 78. Defensive tackle Bryson Eason, 73.3. Linebacker Jeremiah Thielander, 67.6. Deshaun Bishop, 67.1. And Joey Aguilar, 84.8 grade for him. For the Volunteers. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
So when you looked at the last handful of games for Vanderbilt, and as much as Tim Beck wants to run the football, that had really gone away, right? They had one big run from M.K. Young in the Missouri game. They didn't run the ball hardly at all against Texas. Kentucky last week, they only had 80 rushing yards. The difference to me and the amount of balance that Vanderbilt had in this offense this game was their run game. 8.8 yards per carry, 87.2 rushing grade as a team. Obviously, Diego Pavia is a big part of that, but Cedric Alexander getting going again was really big for this offense in this game and their ability to control the ball and hold it for 35 minutes. 317 rushing yards. How about 11 explosive runs? You compare that to Tennessee, 4.4 yards per carry, very average, 3 explosive runs the entire day. It just, especially in the second half, when Vanderbilt got two-dimensional and they figured out what was working in their run game, and Alexander and Pavia were running so hard, running through contact, this version of Vanderbilt with balance, and I know they've scored, 45 points in 3 straight games, I believe it is, but this version where they're two-dimensional is borderline unstoppable, especially now with the way that Pavia is throwing the ball. So just credit to them. Credit to Tim Beck, as always, with the schemes. Pavia's ability to manage it all. The play action was really working in this game, too. And good to see Cedric Alexander have his biggest game of the year in this one.
Definitely. I want to talk about the Tennessee offense and really in the second half, just how Vanderbilt just took this game over in the second half. Tennessee's offense was clicking in the first half of this game. They were tied at 21 going into halftime with everything to play for in the second half. They had 230 yards total in the first half with 6 yards per play. Completely fell apart, though, in the second half because Vanderbilt outscored them 24-3 in the second half of this game. Tennessee only had 137 total yards and only 3.7 yards per play. Tennessee, it looked like in the first half we were going to get the shootout that we all expected in the first half, tied at 21 going into halftime. Vanderbilt continued to have great offensive success in the second half, scoring 24 points in the second half and 45 points overall. Tennessee's offense completely sputtered to a halt, though, in this game, only scoring 3 points in the second half. Major credit to Vanderbilt's defense for making halftime adjustments and coming out in the second half and just completely shutting down this Tennessee offense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it came full circle here for Vanderbilt and winning this rivalry game by 21 on the road. Obviously, you would think maybe it keeps them in the discussion for an at-large bid, especially with as big as this win was on the road. I don't think their resume quite gets them in to the top 10 where they need to be, but what an unbelievable season and what a way to cap an unbelievable season. And Diego Pavia absolutely, we'll get into this later, should be at least going to New York for the Heisman ceremony. Not sure that he'll win it, especially with, we'll see the results of that Big Ten game and how those two quarterbacks play there. But, I mean, just their first ever 10-win season, correct? I mean, what an unreal season, what an unreal era we've had the last 2 years of Vanderbilt football for, Diego Pavia and Clark Lee getting his extension, Tim Beck, Jerry Kills, everybody involved with this. It's just, it feels like for that program, the right way to cap it off is this win.
Yeah.
Again, a playoff bid seems highly unlikely, but an unreal season.
So who do you want to shout out in this win for Vanderbilt?
I go back on the ground. Cedric Alexander, 10 carries, 115 yards. That'll do when it comes to efficiency, right? 4 missed tackles, 4 explosive runs. Just felt like the bounce back from him was a big key to this game. And you felt it, you mentioned in the second half, especially Vanderbilt in the second half controlling time of possession was a big factor because if the game gets fast-paced and Josh Heupel and Joey Aguilar get into that passing offense, that explosive offense that Tennessee has, it could be a real dangerous thing. It could be a shootout both ways, right? But in this game, it felt like there were stretches where Tennessee just never had the football, and Alexander was such a big part of that.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. I want to talk about Diego Pavia, man. Just what an incredible job by him in this game, in this season, over the last 2 years, over his entire collegiate career. Diego Pavia has been a legend in college football, and I'd argue he's having a college football Hall of Fame type of career right now. He has stamped his ticket, I think, to the Heisman ceremony with this game, and many people don't, like our coworker Trevor Sikkema, thinks he should win the Heisman Trophy. I actually saw a lot of people on Twitter arguing for Pavia for the Heisman. He has been incredible, though, all year. He threw for 256 yards in this game with a touchdown and 2 picks, 1 big-time throw, 2 turnover-worthy plays, a 78% adjusted completion rate. But he also ran for 168 yards and a touchdown with 3 forced missed tackles. He has been the biggest reason why Vanderbilt has had a magical run over the last 2 years, a 17-8 record with Diego Pavia over the last 2 years. For reference, so 17 wins of Pavia over the last 2 years. Vanderbilt won a combined 18 games in the previous 6 years combined. So Diego Pavia has completely turned around this program just like he did at New Mexico State. As well. He's the second highest graded quarterback in college football behind only Ohio State's Julian Sayin. He should absolutely go to New York for the Heisman Trophy. You could argue right now, and I get the argument for Pavia and why he deserves to win the Heisman. You can make the argument, Dalton, that no player in college football is more important to their team than Diego Pavia. He has continuously put the team on his back throughout his entire career at Vanderbilt, and really the biggest thing that I'm saying for him, he's leaving Vanderbilt right now better than he found it. Clark Lee is building a great program right now. We'll see this week, because it is National Signing Day this week. We'll see if Vanderbilt flips the number 1 quarterback in high school football right now, Jared Curtis, who's currently committed to Georgia, but he's from Nashville. And there's a lot of talk right now, Clark Lee getting extended and Vanderbilt doing what they're doing right now, that Jared Curtis might flip to Vandy so he can start as a true freshman next year. But even without that, man, what he's done at Vanderbilt and just rebuilding this program with Clark Lee and with everyone else too has been incredible. Diego Pavia, again, don't think he will win the Heisman Trophy, but he should 1,000% be a Heisman finalist.
He's top 3. I do think there is at least something. There is something of an argument, number 1, and I think it's a similar argument as I made with Jaden Daniels a couple of years ago, is the amount that he adds as a rusher as well, right? As a passer, his and Sayin's and Mendoza's numbers are relatively equal. Pavia, you mentioned it, second highest graded quarterback in the country, top 10 in big-time throws, top 10 in adjusted completion rate, right up there with those guys. And the rushing, you look at it, take out sacks because we count it properly here. Over 900 yards rushing, Max, the only 2 Power 4 quarterbacks with more, Talon Green and Haynes King. And top 10 in the country among quarterbacks, actually the most explosive runs of 10 or more yards of any quarterback in the Power 4. So when you factor in the rushing, that's the part to me where you start to go, okay, Pavia's got a real argument here. He does. I still think think about this, if we get, say, an ugly defensive game between maybe the 2 best defenses in college football, between Ohio State and Indiana, and that game's 17-13 and neither quarterback really goes off, is there suddenly a real argument for Pavia at number 1 with the factor that he adds in as a rusher? And the fact that when you really look at the numbers, he's been even as a passer, at least even as a passer with those other 2 guys we're talking about. I think he is closer in that mix than we think. But the fact that the other 2 get a head-to-head and the so-called Heisman moment could play a factor. But if that's an ugly, low-scoring game now, I think Pavia, that maybe if he's trying to win it, that's what he's rooting for. Hey, let these 2 teams play to a 10-7 game and see where it goes from there, and then check the numbers after the game.
And this is out of his control, obviously. But I also think getting in the playoff would help, too. I don't think the committee is going to do that, but
I don't think so.
So that's why, again, I don't think he's going to win it. But I think right now our Heisman finalists are pretty much locked in.
But here's
hold on, I think we've got Julian Sayin,
Yeah.
Fernando Mendoza, Diego Pavia, Jeremiah Love. Those are the 4 I expect to be in New York. Those are the 4 that we probably wouldn't send to New York. We have another guy that we send there too. We'll get later on in the show.
Let's just send 5 then. Come on.
I don't know why we limit it to 4.
Where do they do this? Is it Radio City Music
Yes.
Hall?
You can fit another person in there.
You can fit,
But
just take one less ticket out for the fans. Add a 5th guy in there. Just put a 5th guy in.
I would almost guarantee those are the 4 that we see in New York.
Probably.
Pavia, Mendoza, Sayan, and Jeremiah Love.
I would be curious to see the momentum for Rodriguez, though. We'll get there later. But I
gave him a couple rushing touchdowns yesterday.
I do think the top 3 in some order is probably absolutely set in stone.
Yeah.
And the other argument for Pavia, also, look at the 2 teams the other 2 guys play on. And no disrespect to Vanderbilt, but the rosters are nowhere near what Ohio State's and Indiana's are. And we've talked about, the offensive line, the pass protection. Pavia overcomes more than a lot more than those 2 guys have.
Agreed.
Right? So I think there is an argument there, but I think the argument for a winner is cut off with those 3 guys. No question.
Agreed. How about that? The 3 guys that we think really realistically win the trophy. You got an Ohio State quarterback.
Yeah.
Not surprising. A Vanderbilt quarterback, an Indiana quarterback.
Welcome to college football.
That kind of rules. If it is the last time we see Diego Pavia, though, he will play the bowl game. I would expect him to as well. But if this is the last time we talk about him, just an incredible job by him. And what a way to go out, man. He went on busting the boys, Dalton, preseason. He was saying how Vanderbilt's going to run this state. A lot of people were laughing at him for talking all the trash. He backs it up, man. He backed it up in this game. They beat Tennessee for the first time, I believe, in 7 years. Vanderbilt beat Tennessee first time in 7 years. So great job for Vanderbilt. And now, again, I don't think they'll make the playoff because there wasn't enough chaos that happened yesterday. But Vanderbilt's still alive right now for a college football playoff spot, which just saying that sentence right there says all you need to know about Clark Lee and Diego Pavia and the program they built at Vanderbilt over the last 2 years. All right, next up. By the way, Dalton, actually, you know what? Let's just get to it right now. The Lane Kiffin meeting has been pushed back. Lane Kiffin, as has happened all weekend, pushed back to 1 p.m. Central Time. So we will not know until 2 p.m. Now, every single reporter I see out there is saying he's going to accept the LSU job. And most likely, I would expect, not coach the playoff. So any reaction to what we expect to be the news at 2 p.m.? I can't believe that it got pushed back again, considering we should have known yesterday morning, and it got dragged all the way out to midnight, and we still didn't know. And now it's like, okay, 9 a.m. meeting today. No, now 1 p.m. meeting today. I expect this to be pushed back until the national title game at this point, honestly. But what do you expect? What do you make of the expected news of Lane Kiffin going to LSU and not coaching Ole Miss in the playoffs?
I don't think at this point it's that much of a surprise because there's been speculation about this for close to a month, right? And obviously Florida was in the mix as well. Now they've shifted their focus elsewhere. And LSU, this was always their guy. Lane Kiffin was their guy, and to the point where we've even said, who knows what? I don't even know what they would do otherwise, right? At one point, didn't you mention in the betting odds that Nick Saban was the betting favorite to be? This is the lengths that we were going to figure out who in the hell else would be LSU's head coach. And at this point, there isn't anybody else it could have been. It's going to be Lane Kiffin in all likelihood. And as far as Ole Miss goes on the other side of this, they're really, especially with the big result, let's talk about just the game in general. We don't have the official review for it, but they got a huge win at Mississippi State. Trinidad Chambliss was the best player on the field once again, as he's been for them all season. He's been outstanding. Him and Kawan Lacey were really good again. As far as Ole Miss and the playoff implications, there's just, to me, even if you factor in, okay, Kiffin's not there, there is actually, when I was looking at it again, there's absolutely no way you could drop them lower than number 7.
No.
You can't. Oklahoma's sitting there at 8. They beat Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You can't drop them.
They're hosting a game.
They have to host a game. If there's any reason they are not hosting a game because Lane Kiffin's not there, something's extremely wrong, and we need to rework this whole thing. They have to be at least in the top 7. They got a big win. And look, if Kiffin's not coaching them, then so be it. You go out there as a team and you go, you know what? That's life. It's messed up, but what is it? It's expected that Joe Judge would be the head coach. You still have Pete Golding, your defensive coordinator. I don't know how immediately he would start poaching staff members and things like that.
Well, did you see the report that came out from Brett McMurphy saying Lane Kiffin is essentially demanding to finish the year with Ole Miss and also threatening to poach the roster and the staff if he can't finish the year? It has gotten messy in Oxford. Very messy.
I I don't know how you can go making demands. Really,
Also, you're gonna poach the staff and players after the year anyway.
Yeah,
it's not like you're not gonna do that if you coach the team in the playoff.
I don't know. Because wouldn't coaching Ole Miss be more of an LSU issue?
I would imagine
right?
so.
Especially
I think Ole Miss also doesn't want him.
Signing day coming up, portal coming up. This is the problem with the timing of it all, and why we've talked about, okay, if you're going to hire a coach, do you hire a playoff coach? How does it? I
think Ole Miss also does not want him to coach if he's leaving. Because he could also, in the building, I guess he could, be recruiting players to LSU while he's still in the building. Coaches the same way.
Right.
They probably want him gone. If he's like, hey, if you're gone, you're gone. You're not coaching the playoff.
And I get that part. That's the whole reason they came up with this deadline, and it continues to get pushed back hour to hour. Yeah. But, I get that part. And Ole Miss, they're just trying to get out there in a couple weeks to play football. They're going to have a game to play.
The timing sucks. It's gotten so messy.
This has gone from, kind of sort of fun, dramatic, okay, what's he doing kind of thing to, okay, this is kind of a train wreck now.
Yeah, it's a train wreck.
And it continues to be a train wreck. And look, for the sake of Ole Miss team, whoever's left standing or whatever's going on with any sort of poaching there, I would hope they have their full team in play for that playoff game, which should be at Ole Miss, so against whoever they're playing, and see where it goes from there, no matter who's coaching. But no, it's a mess now, and it feels like over the last couple of days it's only gotten worse.
Again, we expect Lane Kiffin to be the next head coach at LSU, and also expect him not to be able to coach Ole Miss in the first round of the playoff and the ensuing playoff games as well. That's what we expect. We're supposed to find out at 10 a.m. Eastern time today, but that got pushed back to 2 p.m. Eastern time today. We won't be live, unfortunately, for that, but we'll break down that news when it comes. Dalton, before we move on, though, real quick, because I think there's been a lot of arguments from people saying, what would you have done if you were Lane Kiffin? If you were Lane Kiffin, would you have stuck around at Ole Miss, sign an extension, stay with this team, do the playoff and all that, or would you have taken what many people consider to be a top 5 job in the country in LSU?
I was always in the boat. I thought he was going to lean towards staying, especially with the year they were having, and I might have thought about staying because, that LSU job comes with so much pressure. I know they have all the resources in the world. That's big, and that's a big deal to him, obviously, right? But it comes with so much pressure, and he's going to have to get it right and have to get it right quick. There's even talk of, okay, within the first 2 years, you have to be competing for a national title, right? That's this sort of expectation. Now, when you go to a program like that, that's just the expectation it comes with. And LSU's got too much talent to have not been competing for national championships already. But I don't know. I was always in the boat where I thought, you know what, why not stay? He's got it rolling. This is the best era of Ole Miss football we've ever seen. But money talks. $100 million or whatever's in front of him talks. The resources talk, and LSU, for as long as college football has existed, has basically always had better resources than Ole Miss when it comes to trying to win national championships. But I always thought there was at least a chance he would stay, and he's taking the bigger job. And if he feels like he's got a better chance to win a trophy there, then I get it.
Yeah, Andrew Harbaugh in the chat saying, I would have stayed just to sell housewife merch. That was an insane, dude. That's just Lane Kiffin in a nutshell, man. I love him.
Yep.
Ole Miss fans probably don't love him right now, but I do. I think he's hilarious.
And I think that's the one thing is everything that's gone down this week. This is the one coach in the country where none of it is surprising either.
No. Oh my God.
We've been doing this for 15 years.
Oh my God, no. E60 did a documentary about him and how he's a changed man and all that. And now he's back to doing the same old stuff. Back to when he left Tennessee for USC. He was the head coach of the Raiders, and that was a drama-filled episode too. This is very Lane Kiffin.
If I had $90 million thrown at me, I'd jump ship off this show right now.
Exactly.
$90 million.
Exactly. And you wouldn't even finish the year. You wouldn't finish the playoff either. You'd be out of here.
No, you'd be doing the playoffs.
Exactly,
you'd be doing the playoffs with. If I got $90 million, you're doing the playoffs with Eli.
By the way, anyone who's wondering, I also agree with Drake Holiday in the chat. I would take the LSU job. I think LSU is one of those jobs that is, for example, I would have said no to Florida and said, no, I'm sticking in Ole Miss. We're going to ride this playoff out and all that. I think LSU is one of those jobs, I would put Texas, Georgia, Ohio State in that mix as well as one of those jobs.
Just stick a knife in Trevor, why don't you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Listen, Trevor, I don't think Penn State's one of those jobs either. I'm a Penn State fan. But I think LSU is one of those jobs, like I said, those three right there, that's you can't really say no to LSU. And I think this is one of those jobs for Lane Kiffin that he couldn't really say no to. Again, the resources are there to win consistent national titles. I think he's kind of maxing out his capabilities at Ole Miss right now, and I don't think Ole Miss can win a national title this year, probably not going to happen. At LSU, you can build the best team in the country, and I think that's possible. And I think the recruiting base in LSU, the resources at LSU, that stadium's got, the history that LSU's got too, this is one of those jobs for Lane Kiffin. I think he just really could not say no to. He said no to the Auburn job a few years ago, and many people thought, it'd be a legendary figure in Ole Miss forever. But this is one of those jobs where you can't say no to. And also, listen, I get it, man. It's a big risk. This is a huge risk for Lane Kiffin. I'm not denying that at all. Staying at Ole Miss, being the hero, returning to Ole Miss, coaching this team in the playoff, and riding it out and having 9-3 years where they're very happy going 9-3 and 10-2. It's a very comfortable life for Lane Kiffin. But I think he wants to chase national titles. And I think the best chance for him to win consistent national titles potentially is at LSU. So again, it's a huge risk. It's the biggest risk of his career, I would argue. But I think it's worth it. I would also take this job at LSU. It absolutely sucks that he can't coach this team in the playoff after Ole Miss is having probably the best year in school history. That sucks. That's more of a product of the college football calendar, I think, though. I also wouldn't argue he has not handled it the best either. I think he could have handled it better than he's done right now. But I would do the same thing at Lane Kiffin's doing right now. I would take the LSU job, and whatever happens, happens. If I can't coach the playoff, that means I can't coach the playoff. But I personally would take the LSU job. It's a very hard decision. It's the biggest risk of his career, but I think it's worth it.
And side story, we don't have to get fully into this right now, but who takes over a pretty darn good open Ole Miss job at this point with the momentum they have and the way they've built that?
So right now there's talks that John Summerall is going to decide on what he's going to do, whether it be Tulane or Florida. I wonder if Ole Miss makes a last dash call to him.
Is it Summerall? Is it
maybe Judge just gets the job?
The other guy who could factor into this mix, who's in a similar spot, we believe, as Summerall, was Alex Golesh from USF, who there was rumors that he took the Arkansas job, but that was then confirmed to have not been the case, and Golesh is kind of thinking about his future with other teams. I wonder if that's another call Ole Miss would make. That's going to be a really fun job search, too, when it comes to them. And what Kiffin has built and what he's leaving behind is pretty darn good. Again, the best era basically ever of Ole Miss football. Somebody's got to take that over, too. That's going to be a fun story to watch in the next month or so.
Yeah, someone made a great point in the chat saying, everyone thought that LSU would be so great when Brian Kelly took over, too. That's true. But also, the three coaches before Brian Kelly, Ed Orgeron won a national title. Ed Orgeron won a national title at LSU because of the roster he could build at LSU. Guys like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Derek Stingley Jr., those guys don't really go to Ole Miss that often, I would argue. So that's why I think Ed Orgeron, Les Miles won a national title. Nick Saban, the three coaches before Brian Kelly all won national titles at LSU. I think there's a higher ceiling at LSU. Yes, there is a big risk, and Lane Kiffin could end up like Brian Kelly and get fired and not know what to do after that. And he could have been very comfortable and live out the rest of his coaching career in Oxford, Mississippi. So it's a big risk, but I personally would take the job if I was him as well. But again, expect him to take the job. It's not official yet. All the reports are saying he's going to take the job. We'll see what happens at 2 p.m. later on in the day. All right, next game though. We'll get back to college football now. Miami beating Pittsburgh 38-7. Number 12 Miami beating number 22 Pitt. Miami staying alive in the college football playoff race, but they are officially out of the ACC championship race because of some games that we'll talk about later on in the show. Highest grade players for Miami. Number 1, wide receiver, Malachi Toney. What a day for him. 87.8 grade. Corner, Xavier Lucas, 83.1. Offensive tackle, Francis Malangoa, 82.3. Zechariah Poyser, the safety, 77.1. Gerard Pringle Jr., the running back, 76.4. And Carson Beck, 65.2. For Pitt, highest grade players, linebacker Rasheem Biles, 71.6. Corner Rashad Battle, 69.2. Safety Javon McIntyre, 66.6. Cruz Brookins, the safety, 66.2. Also at a 66.2 is Isaiah Neal, and then Mason Heinschel, 70.2. Dalton, what's the story in this game?
I'm going to tell you the least shocking thing you've heard all year. Miami dominated this game in the trenches. That's what they've done all year. That's how they win games. That's how they beat Notre Dame. That's a point of contention there, too. Miami's offensive line graded 22 points higher than Pitt's in this game. The defensive line graded 19 points higher than Pitt's in this game. Carson Beck, and yes, he gets rid of the football very quickly, only pressured on 4 out of his 34 dropbacks. Mason Heinschel pressured on 13 out of 37, 35%, which actually isn't a terrible rate when you're playing Miami, but you could feel even when he was in a clean pocket that he was rushed. Mason Heinschel absolutely loves to hold on to the football, improvise back there, play that playground football. He doesn't like getting rid of it that quickly. quickly. Miami, of course, forces you to do that, and actually had a really good passing grade under pressure, right around a 90, but it wasn't ideal, and you can feel him sped up. And then the rushing yards also 164 to 65 in favor of Miami. They were just better in the trenches, and it was kind of a slow burn. It was 17-7 at halftime, and then Miami ran away with it. But that's really they beat Pittsburgh the same way they've beaten teams all year. Dominate them on the offensive line. Dominate him on the defensive line.
Yeah. Mason Heinzel, credit to him, because I mentioned before in the preview how he's one of the lowest graded quarterbacks in America under pressure. He had like a 90 grade under pressure in this game. So he performed well, and he was really the only offensive player who performed well, it felt like, for Pittsburgh in this one. Because Pittsburgh, they just really, really struggled overall. I mean, they got clapped by Miami in this game. They really struggled overall. They only had a 54.5 offensive grade, a 57.3 defensive grade for Pitt as well in this game. So just overall, just got dominated on both sides of the ball. The Panthers did in this one. And in this game, a 53.6 overall grade. That is the lowest of the year for Pitt. For reference, second lowest was Notre Dame at 55.5. So Miami did beat Pitt a little bit worse than Notre Dame did in this one. Both blew them out, obviously, and Miami did score a couple touchdowns at the end of this game to make it look worse than it actually was. But still, Miami dominated this game overall. Only one defensive player for Pitt who had even a 70 PFF grade. That was Rasheem Biles. Only one offensive player who had a 70 PFF grade as well, Mason Heinzel. Every other offensive player was below a 65 PFF grade in this one. Just, again, outclassed Pitt on both sides of the ball in this game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was just they went in there and proved they're the better team. And the ironic part of it is that Miami still might be the best team in the ACC, but they won't get a chance to prove it in the championship game with Duke winning their game over Wake Forest. And they're basically in the weirdest situation in college football right now for as well as they dominated this game. And look, another point to make here, Notre Dame beat Pitt by 22. Miami beats them by 31. They're just checking boxes in the resume there to make these arguments both this Tuesday and a week from now, Sunday. But taking care of business, man, on the road, going into Pittsburgh and just dominating this team all the way around. It's a really good accomplishment for them.
Who is your most impressive from this game?
I'll stay in the trenches. Give me the big right tackle, probable first-round pick Francis Mauanoa, right? 86.2 pass blocking grade, didn't allow any pressure, 76.9 run blocking grade. Maxey's right now the sixth highest graded qualified offensive tackle in the country. And even when Miami wanted to get a little unbalanced here and kind of mess around with some formations, he would kick into guard for a handful of snaps and get some nice run blocks in there. And I do wonder if that would be a point of interest for scouts. You know what? This guy could play guard. Maybe he could be one of the best guards in football, too. But Mauanoa, as usual, the face of this Miami offensive line, he was just outstanding.
I think he's been outstanding all year,
yep.
too. I mean, I think there's a lot of people right now, Dalton, that don't love this tackle class in the draft. I think I'm one of the few that actually really likes it. I think Finos had a great year. I think Mauanoa's had a fantastic year overall. I think even Caden Proctor I've been impressed by this year, too. So I know a lot of people are kind of down on this tackle class, and I get it. It's probably not going to – there's no Joe Alt, I would argue, or Penei Sewell prospect in this class. But there are like three guys I would probably take somewhere in the top 15 to 20 in this draft in those three.
Well, I'll tell you why that's the case is because some of those a couple of those guys, first two you just mentioned, Spencer Fano, right tackle.
Yeah.
Francis Mauanoa, right tackle. Jennings Dunker, who could be talked about in that conversation, right tackle. A guy that I like in Duke, Brian Parker, right tackle. Like people still have this kind of slight towards right tackles, and if they're elite football players, just play like Penei Sewell, left tackle at Oregon, move over. If you have two great tackles, look at the Eagles losing this past week without Lane Johnson, right? To me, it doesn't need to matter. I get it. The blind side left tackle's always been the whole thing, right? But if you have a great right tackle, if you have great tackles on both sides, you generally are going to have one of the best offensive lines in football, right? You know, when the Chargers have Alton Slater both healthy, when the Eagles, Mailata and Johnson, or Decker and Sewell in New York, I mean, just draft them. Just draft offensive line talent because there's not enough of it in the NFL anyway. I really do think that's the reason. It's because, these Fano and Mauanoa, especially, they're right tackles, so somehow they're lesser. They're not. They're elite football players. Take them in the top 20.
By far the best offensive lineman in the NFL right now is Penei Sewell, and he's a right tackle.
Correct.
So, and he might have break the PFF record for a grade in a season, right? He's at like a 97 right now.
I got to check it overall, but it's insane. I mean, it's just, and it just shows again. You look at the really good offensive lines in the league. Got them on both sides. Yeah. It's not just one or the other. So, I mean, to me, I wouldn't care. If I need a right tackle, Fine. If you think he's talented enough, you want so desperately put him on the left side, and put him on the left side. Fine.
Absolutely. I think those three, man, Mauigoa, Fano, and even Proctor. I know Proctor gets a lot of hate right now. I think he's a really good player. I think this is his best year of his career he's having right now. So I think all three of those guys are worth top 15, top 20 picks in this draft. So I'm a little bit higher on this tackle class, I think, than most people are right now. I got to shout out, though, a guy who was not eligible until 2028. That is baby Jesus himself, Malachi Toney. He is incredible, man.
Is that actually his nickname?
Yeah, right? Isn't it baby Jesus, or was it someone else?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember that.
I'll look it up real quick.
Wow.
I might have just butchered that real quick. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
But Malachi Toney, who also, by the way, someone threw in a super chat as well. I believe the same person threw in a super chat earlier, saying Malachi Toney for Heisman. Don't think it'll happen this year. Next year, though.
Hey,
I'm all in next year.
Tell you what, he keeps throwing touchdown passes along with catching 12, 13 balls a week. Then you're on to something there because, starting –
Baby Jesus,
It really is.
That's
wow.
Nickname Corner High School is Baby Jesus.
Oh.
I can see why, the way he played in this game, man. That guy does everything for this Miami offense. He caught 13 of his 16 targets for 126 yards and a touchdown with 93 yards after the catch, 3 forced missed tackles, almost 4 yards per route run. He also ran 5 times for 30 yards and 3 first downs. He also had a touchdown pass as well in this game. He is the highest graded true freshman in the Power 4 right now. I would argue right now he is the best true freshman in college football this year. I believe the Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year award is only for true freshmen. If it's for redshirt freshmen, Julian Sain probably will win that award. If it's for true freshmen, though, which it should be, honestly, Malachi Toney should win that award. He is the best true freshman right now in college football. Dalton, we were talking about it in the office yesterday. He will absolutely enter next year, for me, as a top 5 receiver in the country. You could even argue Malachi Toney is the second best receiver returning to college football next year, behind Jeremiah Smith, of course. But he has been incredible, man. Special football player. He's only 17 years old as well. Should be a senior in high school right now, kind of like the Ryan Williams stuff from last year. But Malachi Toney, what an incredible year he has had for the Hurricanes, and an incredible game against Pitt.
How about this? Receiving grade, all right, on the season, 90.4. Only 2 guys ahead of him. Wyatt Young from North Texas, who we'll talk about later this week, because that North Texas team is on fire, and Mekhi Lemon. He's moved ahead of Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, who are right behind him, with a 90.4 receiving grade. 106 targets. Not a single drop.
Wow.
Not one. I'm going to have to start seeing if we're getting into some sort of record territory with that as well, with that many targets and no drops. And you got to love how he's a true freshman. Obviously, he's an elite football player, right? And he can do everything for them. But Miami, as the season's gone on, this is why I wanted to talk about him in the preview, they've started to center their entire offense around Malachi Toney, whether it's him flying in motion and creating that distraction and then opening things up in the run game, whether it's winning downfield, winning after the catch. He's one of the leaders in yards after catch this season. Now he's throwing the football seemingly every week. He's thrown multiple touchdown passes this year. I mean, he's just a darn good football player. I think that's really the best way to put it, is even you would never know watching him. If no one told you, you'd never know he's a true freshman.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't play like it. He plays like a veteran. He plays like he just knows everything he's doing out there almost ahead of time. You're absolutely right. This is one of the best players in college football, regardless of class and regardless, next year coming back, like you mentioned, he's got a really good argument as number 2 coming back.
Yeah, he really might be number 2 in the country behind Jeremiah Smith going into next year, man. He's an incredible football player. Again, it should only be a senior in high school right now, and he reclassified up to Miami, and they are very grateful for that, considering how amazing he has been for the Hurricanes this year. An outrageous one-handed catch that he had in this game, a touchdown pass, 30 rushing yards, 126 receiving yards, 13 catches, a receiving touchdown. He does it all for the Miami offense. He's done that all season long as well. The best true freshman in college football is Malachi Toney. All right, next up, we got Alabama taking down Auburn in what was a very, very fun Iron Bowl game that went down to the wire. Alabama escaping, though, with a 27-20 victory over Auburn. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with Alabama. Highest graded player for the Crimson Tide was Nakai Hill-Green, the linebacker, 82.1. Zabian Brown, 78.8, the corner. Bray Hubbard, who had a couple massive plays for Alabama in this game, 74.9. Keon Sabb, 72.5. Red Morgan, the corner, 70.4. Just an incredible job by Alabama's secondary you can see in this game. And Ty Simpson, 67.1. Great in this one. For Auburn, Linebacker Robert Woodyard Jr., 75.5. Defensive tackle Dallas Walker IV, 72.3. Safety Eric Winters, 70.6. Linebacker Xavier Atkins, 70.5. Linebacker Bryce Diaz, 70. And Ashton Daniels, 61.4. Dalton, what told the story of this game?
To me, it's a big part of the story of Alabama's season. It's just been super. I mean, could not have better timing. Timely turnovers. And they won the turnover battle again 2-0 here. And I know it's only 2 plays in this game, but I would argue the 2 biggest plays in this entire game. The Bray Hubbard interception after the Omar Mabson drop, Cam Coleman, the fumble in the final 30 seconds there. And those 2 things right there, the drop and the fumble from those 2, encapsulate a number that I found very interesting here. Auburn in this game, all right, here it is, 45.1 receiving grade as a team. The fumble from Coleman, Max, 7 drops from Auburn receivers in this game, 7 of them. Here's
the pick was a drop too.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, that's not on Ashton Daniels at all, right? Yeah. And that was going down in Alabama territory inside their 30-yard line to tie the game. They tied it on the next drive, but you wonder, you tie it sooner, who knows where things go. 45.1 receiving grade for Auburn. That is the worst in any game by any Power 4 team this season.
Damn.
That's a lot. We're at the end of the year. That right there, those mistakes encapsulate everything for both of these teams to me this year. Every time you think Alabama's done, they're taking it on the chin, they're blowing a big lead, right? They're on the road, it's a big rival. Ty Simpson's trying to gut it out, but it's a struggle. They get the big turnover they need. And there's times where they bend, but they just don't. But think the Vandy game, the 2 red zone turnovers, the Tennessee pick 6 before the half, the Missouri game, the 2 Prebula interceptions, right?
South Carolina Sellers fumble.
South Carolina Sellers fumble. This is just what Alabama does. Is they just, for some reason, they got the magic pixie dust that whenever they need a turnover, Kalen DeBoer, I don't know if he's got some sort of voodoo doll on all these teams or what, but right when they need the big turnover of the year, every single time they get it. They got it 2 more times in this game. And for Auburn, I mean, look at a 4-8 season that could have been so much different. All 8 of their losses by 10 or less, and 7 of them by 7 or less. I mean, that's just – you lose 7 games by 7 points or less. Mm-hmm. And it's mistakes like this. It's just mistakes in crunch time. It's the Jackson Arnold sneak against Georgia. It's it's a Oklahoma touchdown that shouldn't have, I'm trying to think of all the moments. Sorry, Zach Tantillo. I don't mean to bring them all up. But, I mean, it's just you get to the end of the year sometimes in the final game, and we saw this, I think, with several games, with darn near all of them probably, where it's just, man, this is how these 2 teams' seasons went. And Alabama, when they really needed it most, they got the big turnovers. And Auburn, the lack of execution in the passing game and the untimely mistakes at the worst. It feels like not just, kind of a bad time here to have that one. Like at the absolute worst moment in the football game where you could have a big self-inflicted mistake. Credit to Bama for staying in it. They've been so resilient. Ty Simpson talked about that, arguably the most resilient team in college football. But they got to get through another task. And they maybe have to beat Georgia a second time to get into the maybe. I don't. There's a lot that goes into that. But
I personally wouldn't. But I'm with you. The committee might do it though. They might, which would be.
And there's a whole "what have you done for me lately" factor and all. I don't know. I would be tempted to think kind of like SMU last year, where I go, just don't get blown out.
Yeah.
They lose by a field goal. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because that's still Georgia, and that's still probably going to enter the week as the number 3 team in the country.
It would just be so ironic for Bama to be left out of the playoff because a team they want to punish a team for playing conference title weekend, and then it's like, wait, so you're punishing us for playing conference title weekend?
And it would be awful to go, well, that's what you wanted last year. Yeah. It would be awful. I would just say, in the same vein as last year,
Tuscaloosa would storm the committee room that we went to.
In the same vein as last year, just don't get blown out and take that chance. I don't think they will. You know how Alabama, Georgia, and look, hey, we get another Alabama, Georgia.
I know.
What's better than that on the biggest stage? There could be in the SEC title game, but no, credit to them. Alabama all year I think a huge theme on their defense, the biggest theme on their defense has been just the timely turnovers and making plays when they absolutely have to. And sometimes, look, just taking advantage of other teams' mistakes, that's part of it.
That's exactly my stat that told the story. Is one team in the clutch was very clutch, and one team folded under that kind of pressure. And that's been the story of Alabama all year, and the story, unfortunately, for Auburn all year as well, because Auburn had many chances to pull off this upset, but Alabama came up clutch when it mattered most. Again, like you mentioned, Dalton, Auburn drove down to the 28-yard line for Alabama, down by 7 in the third quarter. Ashton Daniels threw a pass that was completely dropped by the running back and Jeremiah Cobb right into the hands of Bray Hubbard for an interception. Later on in that game, Auburn tied the game after that, so it was tied. Later on, Ty Simpson engineered a 75-yard touchdown drive to take the lead in a ballsy fourth down call by Kalen DeBoer on a 4th and 2 from the 6-yard line. Instead of taking the field goal to take a 3-point lead, he let Ty Simpson throw the ball, and he threw a touchdown pass to Isaiah Horton from the 6-yard line. Many people thought they should have taken the points right there. Well, they took even more points by scoring the touchdown right there, and a great call by Kalen DeBoer of going for it on that 4th down. Later on, though, Auburn, like Dalton mentioned, driving down the field to tie the game in the final minute of the game. They were on the 20-yard line with 30 seconds left. Cam Coleman caught a pass. Bray Hubbard forced a fumble, and Deontay Lawson recovered. Bray Hubbard got the interception and the forced fumble for Alabama. Some clutch plays from Bray Hubbard in this game. Again, one team came up big in the clutch. Another team made some massive mistakes in the clutch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the call you mentioned from DeBoer to go for it on 4th and 2, I think that is the correct call, not just because it worked, but because of that process. You think about being down inside Auburn's 5-yard line, think about the payoff when it comes to both consequences there. If it works, you at least get a first down or you score, as they did. If it doesn't work, well, you're still tied. You'll be fine. And Auburn's inside their own 5-yard line trying to drive the whole field to win the game. And yes, sure, they had some momentum. They had a little bit going, but Alabama's defense is still really good, and Ashton Daniels would have had to beat you going down the whole field anyway. So I think the payoff of going for it and getting that touchdown is so, if it was 4th and 8, probably not. Probably kicking the field goal. But 4th and 2, when it's so often thought that you should go for it there anyway, especially with the field position battle that does play a part in it, the right call, and obviously it working makes it even more the right call for sure. But no, you're right. Alabama, this is what they've done all year. They've won the biggest moments of their season after obviously blowing the Week 1 game against Florida State, but they've recovered from that. Only one loss since then, and they've really been outstanding all season. They've been consistent. They have gotten through a lot of these hard times, and I think times in games last year that they wouldn't have gotten through when you think about it. When they get punched in their teeth, and they were way out ahead in this game. Auburn came back and tied it, and they still found a way to get it done and put together the big drive. How about the big, what was it, 8.5 drive to win the ball game before that 4th and 2, or just leading up to that, I should say. So just outstanding stuff, and Kalen DeBoer has just kept this team steady throughout all of it, throughout all the noise about him personally and his team. It's just been a great season for the Crimson Tide.
Who do you want to shout out in this Iron Bowl win for Alabama?
Just as a unit, in between all of the clutch plays we're talking about, first thing you got to do with Auburn is stop the run.
Yep.
Alabama did an outstanding job of that. Obviously, Ashton Daniels got it done when it came to scrambling, but their run defense, how about an 81.7 run defense grade as a unit? They have the 3rd highest run defense grade in the country since Week 9, only behind Ohio State and Ole Miss. 84 design rushing yards allowed across 24 carries in this game. Only one explosive run allowed by design, only one missed tackle on design runs as well. Basically, all the same things that we said about Georgia against Georgia Tech earlier, that's what Alabama did to Auburn, is they made them beat them left-handed. There was a moment where it looked like Ashton Daniels was going to get it done, but you would much rather take that chance against this Auburn team. Stop the run, for the most part, stop this Auburn football team.
And one guy who surprisingly was outstanding in run defense was the cornerback, Zabian Brown, in this game. The true sophomore had an incredible game overall. 91.3 run defense grade for the corner. He had 3 run defense stops, a tackle for loss, and a forced fumble in this one. And then in coverage, only 4 catches allowed on 12 targets for 26 yards. He had a dropped interception and 2 coverage stops, only a 42.4 passer rating allowed. Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton Jr. only combined for for 69 receiving yards total, thanks in large part to how locked down Zabian Brown was on the outside for Alabama.
I mean, you just look at the amount of talent in this Alabama secondary, right? Zabian Brown, Dijon Lee's been great all year. You obviously have Hubbard and Sabb at safety. They're just so darn good in the secondary, and you know, they prevent explosive plays. They can win one-on-one, and as always, they force turnovers when it matters most. I mean, this secondary and the improvement that they've made even as the season has gone on. The run defense is great. Yes, we've questioned the pass rush a little bit, and we'll probably continue to do so, but the back seven of this defense is arguably the best in the country. They've been terrific all season.
Our guy Drake Holiday in the chat saying, yeah, he's awesome. I would have shouted out too. They got the Drake Holiday stamp of approval right there. I love that.
Well, what more could we ask for? Man,
yeah.
you might as well might as well end the show now. It's only going downhill from there. That's the peak right
It
there.
is absolutely going downhill from there. You know why, Dalton? Next up, Oklahoma-LSU.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Syracuse.
We got it.
College.
No, God, no. Please no. This is actually basically the SEC version of that game, though. What a disgusting football game.
Oh, we knew it was coming.
Oh, my goodness. Number 8, Oklahoma, 17, LSU 13. Thank God this game was not played on Thanksgiving night, because if you had the tryptophan in your system from the turkey and then you watched this game, you'd be fast asleep. You have no idea what would have happened in this game. But still, Oklahoma coming out on top, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Actually, you know, they're going into the playoff now with a 10-2 record. Let's go over the highest grade players, starting off with the Oklahoma Sooners. Safety, Peyton Bowen, 87.4. D tackle, Grayson Halton, 83.3. Cornerback, Eli Bowen, 79.6. Kendall Daniels, safety, 77.5. Linebacker, Kip Lewis, 74.9. John Mateer, 56.9. Let's go over to LSU with their highest grade players in the loss. A.J. Halsey, the safety, 78.6. D.J. Pickett, the corner, 76.2. P.J. Woodland, the corner, 75.2. Mansour Delane, the corner, 73.3. Tight end Tradez Green, 72. And the quarterback Michael Van Buren Jr., 60.9. Dalton, what told the story in this defensive slugfest that we got?
Look, I've said it before. The Oklahoma Sooners at this point they're the Pittsburgh Steelers of college football. This is how they're going to win games. It's their defense. It's Brent Venables. And listen, we're sitting here calling it hideous, and it's not the most fun football to watch. But to Brent Venables, it's beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's the greatest
Gorgeous,
thing he's ever seen. Absolutely, it's the kind of football that's gotten him into the playoff. But here's my number to encapsulate this, especially on the LSU side and what Oklahoma held them to. So a negative 4.481 EPA per play. Context. That is the second worst EPA per play that any SEC team has put up in a game this season. You want the fun part? You want the only one worse?
Is it Oklahoma or LSU?
No.
Oh,
it is also yesterday Kentucky in their 41-0 loss to Louisville. It would have been the worst had Kentucky not gotten shellacked by Louisville 41-0. Shout out Mike Quinn. That's your side note you were looking for there on that game. That's all I'm going to talk about with that. I mean, this was just a game that was no matter how low you put the under, it was going to hit. I think it was 36 going into it. Both defenses were really good, but Oklahoma's especially, as always, really good. 86.8 run defense grade, 77.7 coverage grade. LSU only had 213 net yards, and they had a 13-10 lead late in this game to try to win it before the one bust-in coverage. Seemingly, it feels like the only bust-in coverage they've had all season. 3.9 yards per play, only 4 explosive plays the entire game. This is just the game that we got. And Oklahoma's defense, once again, kept them in it just long enough for the offense to make just enough plays to get just enough points. I mean, that's what it feels. I feel like when I watch Oklahoma, I watch Pittsburgh Steelers. That's great pass rush. Front seven's great. All sorts of different looks on defense from Venables and everything he throws at you. And once again, they got it done. And like you mentioned, they're currently locked into that number 8 spot. That feels right. It might change a little if you get an Alabama or even a BYU win, because I think if BYU jumps, if they beat Texas Tech, they're jumping into that home team conversation. And the Alabama one would get weird because you do have the head-to-head with Oklahoma winning, but also coming off a Georgia win and winning the SEC title game.
Pride jump Oklahoma.
And then you talk about, okay, those are the two scenarios where if either one happens, you could get Oklahoma as a road team still. But for now, if the two favorites, or I don't know if they're favorites, Georgia, probably, but Georgia and Texas Tech winning, you're locked into that number 8 spot, no higher.
And by the way, so I know we made some jokes at the start of the show, or start of this review, I should say. We're saying it's a disgusting football game and all that. For anyone on Twitter who is saying Oklahoma should not be in the playoff because of how bad their offense is, that is They should 1,000% be in the playoff.
They've earned it.
1,000% be in the playoff. I saw a lot of people on Twitter being like, "Oh, we can't have Oklahoma make the playoff with this offense." Absolutely, you can.
The Steelers make the playoffs every year.
Absolutely,
Same thing.
absolutely. Yeah, just because a team's not scoring 45 points a game and winning games 45-41, you still win football games out there, man. So Oklahoma 1,000% shouldn't be in the playoffs. I could not believe I saw those takes on Twitter yesterday saying Oklahoma should not be in the playoffs. So
Oklahoma's task was simple yesterday.
It's win.
Win, and you're going to be number 8. Or lose, and you're going to be out.
Yeah.
And they would have been out because of a lot of those offensive metrics, but they shouldn't be out, right? I mean, look.
It goes back real quick. It goes back to when the committee was talking about Alabama and how they run the ball, and that's why they're lower in the rankings. Who the hell cares? Win or lose the football game, and however you do it. Oklahoma won this game, scoring 17 points. Great. They won the football game. That's all that matters. I hate the fact that we're talking about, like, rushing metrics and how offenses play. Like, Miami last year, their offensive prowess. They couldn't defend anyone last year. Oklahoma 1,000% should be in the playoff no matter how they win football games.
And then you want resumes. Okay, so yes, they lost to Texas. They lost by 1 score to Ole Miss, a team, and that's why they will stay behind Ole Miss no matter what happens here. That's fine. That's a top 7 team in the country. But you beat Michigan soundly. You beat Tennessee on the road. You beat Alabama on the road.
Yep.
You beat Missouri pretty soundly. Defensive game, but so be it. This LSU win seals it. I mean, it would have been that simple. Those offensive arguments would have been correct had they lost this game. They didn't lose this game. They've earned it so far this season. They've lost. Their 2 losses are to 2 of probably the top 12 or 13 teams in the country. Oklahoma damn well deserves to be here. They've done it in an uglier fashion than some others, but that's Brent Venables' team. That's his identity, his defense.
Absolutely, yeah. Oklahoma deserves to be in the playoff right there. My stat, real quick, is kind of the same as Dalton's, just a kind of different way to frame the LSU struggles on offense. Dalton, LSU had 9 first downs in this game and 9 punts in this game.
Tough ratio, right?
They had as many punts as first downs in this game. My guy, mi familia, Grant Chadwick, the LSU punter, he was very busy in this game for the Tigers. Listen, we knew this game would be a race to 20, and it didn't even get to a race to 20. It got to 17. We knew the winner of this game is probably going to score somewhere between 17 and 20 points. That's exactly what happened in this game. It was a punt fest from both teams, LSU and Oklahoma. Neither teams could get the run games going. Both quarterbacks in this game were below average as well. The difference was, though, Oklahoma, and you'll get into it right now, Dalton, one guy for Oklahoma made some big chunk plays for the Sooners when they needed it most.
Isaiah Satania has been making big chunk plays for Oklahoma all season, especially the last several weeks, both as a receiver and as their punt returner, but 9 catches for 121 yards and the touchdown, albeit, yes, on a major coverage bust from LSU, but you know what? That's all it takes is just one of those mistakes to happen, right? And Satania generally has been in the middle of most of the explosive plays here for Oklahoma. Obviously picked up 4 other first downs aside from the touchdown and you know, the receiving grade around a 70 because he did have a drop in this game. And again, that's a play where, you know, the coverage bust and the touchdown where he wouldn't get the highest grade on the scale because he was left standing there by himself with 30 yards of space around him, but still a really big game. And he just seems to be the one guy with that track level speed that he has that can make big plays in this Oklahoma offense. And once again, he made a couple of them in this game.
Yeah, I want to shout out Peyton Bowen. Well, I feel like I've shouted out a lot this year, but he's been outstanding for them, and he was outstanding in this game too. 88.5 coverage grade in this one, 2 catches allowed on 3 targets, only 1 receiving yard allowed. One of the catches was a touchdown, but I would attribute that more to an outstanding play design and a perfect play call by the interim OC for LSU, Alex Atkins, on this one. So that wasn't really, I would argue, on Peyton Bowen. It was a great play design, I would argue, by LSU. He also had an unreal interception in the end zone, too, on Michael Van Buren Jr., where just completely jumped up and made a diving catch in the end zone. An incredible play. Also had a run defense stop and a coverage stop for Oklahoma. Former 5-star recruit. This is a guy, actually, that Oklahoma got flipped to them on, I believe, National Signing Day. It was a long, drawn-out recruitment. I believe he was committed to Oregon. Last second, he flipped to Oklahoma, and the Sooners have been reaping the rewards ever since. He has been an outstanding player in Oklahoma's secondary this year, and I would argue right now he's one of the best all-around safeties that we have in college football right now.
And I'll tell you what, considering how tight to the vest this game was, remember that interception came right after a John Mateer interception that LSU had returned inside the Oklahoma 10-yard line, and Bowen comes back, was it the next play or 2 plays later, and makes that play. That could have been a spot where Oklahoma fell in an early hole role in this game, and he saved them and then bailed out Mateer from the mistake that he made. So, look, once again, Oklahoma's offense, it is a struggle right now. It has been a struggle for weeks, really, ever since John Mateer came back and got somewhat healthy from the hand injury he had early in the year and having that surgery. But they're going to the playoff. Right now, if you're in the top 8, just the way the math works, you're locked in. Oklahoma's locked in. There will be some suspense as to whether they're playing in Oklahoma, in Norman, or on the road, but either way, they're there, and you have to credit Brent Venables for getting his team through a gauntlet of an SEC schedule, getting him through a quarterback injury. Did Mateer ever miss a game? Maybe missed one game, I believe it was.
Like Kent State, I believe.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Mateer missed one game and came back, and he clearly wasn't right, and he hasn't played great since then, but this defense and the identity of this football team in really the image of Brent Venables and how he wants his team to look, they've locked themselves into a playoff spot. A lot of credit to him.
And you know what? John Mateer now is essentially 3 weeks off until he plays another game. So maybe that helps him recover even more with his hand injury.
Yeah, I mean, it's that. But it's also the offensive line's got to play better.
Yeah.
It's really the entire operation. They have to be better. If they play offense like they've played the last couple weeks, yeah, they may not win a playoff game, but they have time to prepare. They have time to get healthy, like you mentioned. And the bar there for their offense isn't that high. They've just won 2 games scoring 17 points. This team gets to 24 to 27. You feel really good about their chances of winning because they just don't give up points. They just don't. They turn the football over. They have a great pass rush that can get after you. The blitz can get after you. So this is a tough team to beat, and it's not an easy defense for anybody in the country to deal with.
No, absolutely not. Armisen Thomas able to get healthy, too, for that playoff game, too. I'm sure he'll do everything he can to play in that game because he's one of the best pass rushers in college football. And, yeah, Oklahoma, the offense has struggled, but the defense is a top 5 defense, I'd argue, in college football right now. If you could score 20 to 24 points maybe in the playoff, you could probably beat anyone in the playoff the way this Oklahoma defense is playing right now. So Oklahoma clinching a playoff spot with a 17-13 win over LSU. Next up, another team that clinched a playoff spot, Oregon beating Washington 26-14. Number 6 Oregon winning the border war against Washington. A lot of Oregon fans, Dalton, got mad at me in the comment section for our preview saying it's not the Cascade Clash. I saw a lot of articles that called it the Cascade Clash. Like I referred to it as that. They don't call it that. So all right, I'll call it the Border War.
It's just made up then.
Yeah, I guess so. So not the Cascade Clash, the Border War. Oregon winning this one over Washington. The highest grade player for Oregon was Dante Moore, the quarterback, of course, 85.9 grade for him. He's had an outstanding year all year. He's now one of the 5 highest graded quarterbacks in the country this season. Jaden Kennedy, the corner, talk about him later, 83.1. Jeremiah McClellan, the wide receiver, 79.9. Dylan Thieneman, the safety, 78.2. Jamari Johnson, the tight end, 72.7. And linebacker Jerry Mixon, 69.3. For Washington, their highest grade players in the loss, Adam Muhammad, the running back, 82.1. Devin Bryant, the linebacker, 79. Bryce Butler, the D-tackle, 75.9. Carver Willis, the offensive tackle, 73.6. X-Ray Alexander, 72.5. And Damon Williams Jr., 46.8. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
I think it's very clear at this point. And what's funny is a 77.6 pass blocking grade is very good, right, for an entire game, for an entire unit. For Oregon, I think that's their 4th lowest of the season, and yet that's still just outstanding. Dante Moore only pressured 3 times all day. Only 2 pressures charged to the offensive line. He was sacked twice, one of them late in the play, one on a corner blitz. No sacks charged to the offensive line. If you don't find a way, and look, Oregon's the best pass-protecting team in the country. If you don't find some way to disturb Dante Moore, if you don't have some elite pass rusher and elite front 7 like the way that Indiana did when they went into Oregon and beat them, Oregon's going to beat you. That's just what it comes down to. If you have a team with a lackluster pass rush, I don't know how you're beating this team with the way Dante Moore is throwing the ball right now, and also the way that they've run the ball with Noah Whittington and Jordan Davis and all those guys, and the way Dan Lanning's defense is playing, holding Washington to 14 points in this game. But I think that's really the biggest problem when you play against Oregon, and whoever gets to play them in these playoffs, that has to be, look, we got to find a way to get after this kid. The problem is their offensive line is so good. And he's been so good in clean pockets throwing the football all season. I know it's been a theme. It's something we talk about all the time. But Washington just had no answer. They had no answer. And even when they tried to blitz him, how about a 90.4 passing grade against the blitz? In a year that maybe isn't so loaded with Heisman candidates, we'd be talking about Dante Moore on that level too. Because aside from the Indiana game, he's played on that level. But a big part of it is that this offensive line, Isaiah World and these guys on this offensive line, they have protected him better than anybody. And that, to me, is going to be whoever they play in this first round or beyond, that is going to be the matchup I think we have to look at. Is just, do you have any way of disturbing Dante Moore in the pocket? And if your answer is no, you're in for a long day, because Dante Moore, I think, was it you that brought up to me at some point, Dante kind of a little bit of C.J. Stroud in him?
Yeah.
I might be in on that one. And Stroud, you remember at Ohio State, was kind of the same way. Look, we don't know what he looks like necessarily under pressure until that last Georgia game. Then we knew what it looked like. But so many clean pockets, but he'll dice you up. He's just surgical, and he was surgical in this game. The first reason, though, is that this offensive line, again, the best pass-protecting unit in college football this year, as they were 2 years ago with Bo Nix at the helm.
Yeah, Dante Moore has been phenomenal this year. My central story in this game is the passing difference in this game is Oregon's had one of the best run games in college football this year. Washington shut that down in this one, the only 2.9 yards per carry allowed. The difference was, though, that Dante Moore in the passing game thoroughly outclassed Damon Williams Jr. and Washington's passing game. Oregon averaged .384 EPA per pass. Washington, negative .379, 9.9 yards per attempt for Oregon, 4.3 yards per attempt for Washington. Dante Moore, 84 passing grade. Damon Williams, 41 passing grade, about half of that in this one. Again, like I mentioned, Dalton, Oregon only gave up a 7% pressure rate. Washington gave up a 32% pressure rate. Dante Moore proved he is capable of carrying this elite offense with that offensive line with him. And Oregon proved in this game as well they have one of the best secondaries in college football, too. Got our guy, Damon Williams Jr. For Heisman in the chat saying no bueno in this game. Yeah, it wasn't a great game for the Huskies, but man, Dante Moore, I would argue right now, we're going to do our Heisman top 5 later on in the show. He's not in either of our top 5. If we extended it to Heisman top 6, I probably would have Dante Moore 6th on my list.
I could see that, absolutely. I mean, he's just, again, aside from the Indiana game, he's just played darn near flawless football. And you look at, God, the fear to make just these tight window throws, right? Especially, we saw it against Iowa with the big throw he made, but this game, he just came out firing. He just understands where he wants to go with the football. And aside from one turnover worthy play early, he was just outside. He's my most impressive guy. I mean, yeah. I don't know how much more we could say about him in this segment, but he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. He's in the running. You've mentioned it for QB1 in this year's draft. If he comes out, it looks like it'll be either him or Mendoza as that first guy, right? But I mean, this Oregon team and what Dan Lanning's built here in the trenches, I think, on both sides of the ball, with the quarterback and the way that Dante has developed, the secondary, Dylan Thieneman's been as advertised as we've been advertising for a long time. I mean, Jaden Kennedy with a big play in this. I mean, what is it, Brandon Finney, the true freshman out there at corner. I mean, they've just got so many playmakers at all levels of their team. This is going to be a dangerous out, and I think their situation gets interesting. You know that I think a big suspenseful part that I'm looking for in this week's rankings is Oregon going to be ahead of Texas A&M? If they are, then all of a sudden they're number 5. And if they're sitting at number 5, they're looking at, hey, either Georgia or Texas Tech loses, you're next in line. And all of a sudden, Oregon went from, kind of this afterthought after they beat Indiana. They're not going to the Big Ten title game, too. Max, is there a chance we get 3 Big Ten teams with a bye?
Wow.
For all the talk about the SEC, could you have 3 in the top 4 there if say, I don't know, Texas Tech were to lose and Georgia were to win? Because I think the loser of Ohio State, Indiana should stay in the top 4. I'm in that.
Yeah, agreed.
Could you get 3 of them? Man.
Yeah, you could. The way the committee is ranked right now, I probably wouldn't put Oregon in the top 4. We'll get to my rankings later on in the show. But the way the committee's ranked them right now, yes, absolutely possible.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I think needs to be thought about. That the suspense for Oregon is really on the good side if they're going to stay, if they're ranked ahead of Texas A&M and Oregon is 5 and say A&M is 6. I think that's a big point of suspense right here for both of those teams and really for how the whole landscape could be at the top there.
Yeah, we'll get to my rankings later on in the show and how I think it shakes out right now. But yeah, Dante Moore, who I would argue right now is QB1 in the draft. Gun to your head, if you had to take a quarterback, first quarterback taken in the draft, who would you take?
Admittedly, I'm a little worried about this matchup with Ohio State for Mendoza. I think it gets a lot clearer after this week. I would probably go Dante as well, but this is the big game to me for Mendoza. Right. And obviously, in a couple days, we're going to go over that. I think you're giving me that side of the ball.
If you want it, you can take it.
All right, let's do it. We're going to talk about that. Mendoza versus Ohio State. It doesn't get any bigger than that.
Yeah, I can't wait. Jaden Kennedy, who was the highest graded non-Dante Moore player for Oregon in this game, he was phenomenal, I thought, in this one too. And lights out in that secondary, 86.1 coverage grade, 1 catch allowed on 4 targets for only 9 yards. He also had an interception and a forced incompletion. So Jaden Kennedy, 1 catch allowed, interception, forced incompletion. He had more plays on the football than allowed catches in this game. A 0.0 passer rating allowed by Jaden Kennedy in this one as well. He's a former Tulane corner, transferred to Ole Miss, then transferred to Oregon this year. Major reason why Oregon has a top 10 coverage grade in all of college football, one of the best secondaries in the country. Jaden Kennedy has been great for Oregon in that secondary this year.
A couple more guys I want to shout out just because Oregon's had all sorts of receiver injuries. Like, think about that. They're still winning these ball games like this without DeCorian Moore, without Gary Bryant. But look at the way Malik Benson steps up with a 100-yard game. Jeremiah McClellan was 79 yards. Jamari Johnson, lately it's been Kenyon Sadiq in the spotlight, right? But their other tight end, Jamari Johnson, was really good, 60 yards in this game as well. So you look at the depth now that this Oregon team has in this receiving core and the way these guys are playing, and they got 2 good tight ends. You get all of a sudden a couple weeks, get DeCorian Moore back healthy, get Gary Bryant back healthy. I'll tell you what, this team might be the dark horse to make a deep run in this thing. I know Ohio State, Indiana, and probably Georgia are going to get a lot of love from a lot of people making their brackets, but don't forget about this Oregon team because they're absolutely loaded.
Yeah, hopefully DeCorian Moore can come back from his injury for the playoff too. But yeah, this is a really good Oregon team right now, and now they're going to the playoff once again after taking down Washington in the border war, not the Cascade Clash.
Maybe the one advantage for them, you always want to play for your conference title, but maybe the one advantage for Oregon to not playing this week is the ability to get healthy now, to have, 2.5, 3 weeks to go and get healthy now and just go. Because if they get this receiving core and you get DeCorian Moore back healthy, knowing what he can do on the field, and Gary Bryant, too, who's also their primary punt returner, this team gets dangerous. They're really dangerous, and I don't think there's one singular way necessarily to beat them. You just have to be as good as a team like Indiana was earlier this season.
Yep. Oregon taking down Washington. Next game, we've got 3 games, actually, in the ACC, finally deciding who's going to the ACC title game. The big upset that we got was Cal outlasting SMU 38-35. SMU not going to the ACC championship game in what would have been their second straight trip in their first 2 years in the conference. Is not happening anymore because of Cal taking them down. Let's go over the highest grade player, starting off with the California Golden Bears. Their highest grade player was Hezekiah Masses, 78.6. Aiden Manutai, 75.2. Chris Victor, the edge rusher, 73.4. Karan Adams, 73.2, the wide receiver. Cole Basha, another wide receiver, 72.3. Highest grade player was the true freshman quarterback, Jaron Keave Sangapalatelli, 81.8. All right, highest grade players for SMU. Highest grade player was offensive tackle P.J. Williams, 79. Linebacker Alexander Kilgore, 77.7. Corner Marcellus Barnes Jr., 76.6. D tackle Terry Webb, 74.1. Matthew Hibner, the tight end, 72.1. And Kevin Jennings with a solid 75.4 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
I think I got to tell you something. I think that's a first for this show that I've seen there, that Jaron Keave Sangapalatelli, we couldn't fit his full name in the graphic there. We went with the initials.
He's JKS, yeah.
He's JKS. Well, I'll tell you what, the way he played in this game, we're going to have him in a lot more graphics next year. This, to me, and it was his highest graded game of the year. The overarching storyline, obviously, is about SMU and them missing out the ACC title game and not making the playoff and everything like that, right? The headliner here was this true freshman quarterback that was the best player on the field. And Max, I'll get into the stats first, and I don't want to go on a little rant here. 2.26 second average time to throw. We talked about if SMU was going to win this game, it was most likely because of their advantages in the trenches. Sangapalatelli likes to throw the ball vertically, likes to hold on to it a little bit longer to try to make those big plays downfield. In this game, and this is all going to, these two numbers are going to sound like, oh, well, he just went out there and managed the game and it wasn't great. 2.26 average time to throw, lowest of the season. 6.2 yard average depth of target, lowest of the season. That's all good news to me, because he still, I believe, was 5 for 7 on the deep ball in this game. He throws as good a deep ball as anybody in college football. And his ability in this game and the game plan going in to work around this SMU front seven that clearly Cal did not think they could block for very long, and rightfully so. It's one of the best front sevens in the country. Jaron did such a great job of distributing when he had to, of taking shots when he had to, improvising when he had to. The design rollouts were working. If you have plays where he held onto the ball longer, it was often design rollouts or escaping the pocket when he needed to. If you want a game, Max, that he was going to prove as a true freshman, he's an NFL quarterback, it was this one. This was his best game of the year, and I'm going to tell you, this guy, this quarterback, and this game, if you're a Cal fan, supporter, if you're in the program, this game and this quarterback, this is your North Star. Now it's a success. And if you're a head coach trying to get this job after they just fired Justin Wilcox, your first question needs to be, are we keeping this kid? Because Ron Rivera, GM of Cal football, I'm going to tell you right now, get a Brinks truck, fill it, throw it on this kid's front lawn so he doesn't leave.
And fill it again.
And then fill it again and bring it back and drive it back. Make a second trip. Because that's the biggest, I don't even care who their head coach is if they don't keep this kid here. Because last night, what he proved to me, beating a team like that, being the best player on the field, and managing the game and distributing the football the way he was, more because we've talked in the past, even against Louisville, right? When they beat Louisville, it was, okay, he's kind of a high-variance vertical passer, huge arm, right? Those guys can be high and low sometimes. He took the low out of it in this game, the way he managed it, and he still managed to take deep shots when he needed to, all the way down to the end of the game, the seam shot that set him up at the 5-yard line to win the ball game. This was an NFL-caliber game that Saga played. You can't let this kid out the door. I don't care what the price tag is. I do not care. I don't even care who the next head coach is. The idea for Cal needs to be for the next 2 years, this kid stays in the building. That's a quarterback you can win the ACC with. I don't even think SMU, honestly, they got beat up in certain stretches of this game. They stormed all the way back to take a lead. But the scope of just the 4 quarters that were played here, this was a quarterback who proved he was the best player on the field and could be that for the next 2 years going forward. This was by far, to me, for as many good things as he's done this year, this was by far his best game of the year. Yeah. And to go into the offseason with this game on the ledger, beating a team like this that was ranked and coming in looking for ACC title and playoff spot with the drive at the end, really, we talk about a lot of true freshmen. This was the best game that a young quarterback, a true freshman quarterback, has played all season, any of them.
Yeah, he's the best true freshman quarterback that we have in the country right now. We have a lot of good ones, right? Bear Bachmeier's had a great year. Bryce Underwood's had a pretty solid year, I would argue, for Michigan as well. But Jaron K. Saga, what he's done this year, man, is incredible. Victory over a top 25 team in SMU with an interim head coach in Nick Rolovich, too, in his first game as the interim head coach, too. 81.2 passing grade, 331 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, 2 big-time throws, no turnover-worthy plays. Again, like Dalton mentioned, a 2.26 second average time to throw. He has been the best freshman passer in college football this year. Cal needs to. And Ron Rivera's even said before that they're trying to figure out an NAL package to keep Saga there. They very clearly, no matter who the head coach is, they want to keep Saga there in that program. If they can't, though, he is probably going to be the number 1 quarterback in the transfer portal. I remember I'm looking at a school like maybe Oregon, Dalton. If Dante Moore does declare, Dalton, there's actually a really weird parallel between Dante Moore and Jaron Saga, because if you remember, Dante Moore was committed to Oregon, flipped to UCLA very last second. Jaron Saga was committed to Oregon and flipped to Cal at the very last second. Dante Moore started as a true freshman, didn't have a great year overall, goes to Oregon, sits behind Dylan Gabriel. Maybe Saga, I don't think he'd be willing to sit behind Dante Moore for a year, but he also, like Dante Moore, after flipping from Oregon in high school to another school on the West Coast, Saga could go back to Oregon like Dante Moore did as well, if that does happen. I don't know if he enters the portal. He might stick around. Maybe they hire the Oregon defensive coordinator, Tosh Lapoy, as the new head coach. He's kind of the favorite for that job right now, the former Cal defensive lineman, who is now, of course, the Oregon DC. But Saga was an incredible player in this game. And like I said, if they can't keep him, he probably will be the number 1 quarterback for everyone in the portal as well. Maybe even like an LSU Dalton. If Lane Kiffin can't get Trey Chambliss another year, I can see him making a run at this kid too, the way he's playing.
Any school in the country with any sort of quarterback opening, I mean that would be a thing. But I mean, first of all, the ball is in Cal's court. This is going to be maybe even, to be honest, maybe even before the head coach hire. this needs to be Ron Rivera's number one priority.
Yes.
If you lose this kid, I don't know where you go from here. Listen, you were lucky enough to get him in the first place, swipe him from Oregon, like you mentioned the Dante Moore story, like with UCLA. UCLA couldn't capitalize. This is a moment to capitalize on because this is a quarterback that can make you an ACC contender for the next 2 years. He can. You have to figure out how to keep him in the building because a game like that, I'm telling you, this was his best game of the year, Max. Yeah. This was unbelievable. This was NFL-type stuff in this game. Taking shots at the seams through zone coverage, reading one-on-one matchups on the outside, getting rid of the football, getting it to his check down when he needed to, avoiding this pass rush that's really good for SMU. He was the best player on the field. There was no question about it when I went back and watched this morning. He was the best player on the field. And SMU, there were moments where they weren't great. They stormed back. Kevin Jennings did everything he could to try to win this game despite the difficulties on defense. This kid just outplayed him. Unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, I want to real quick talk about the middle 2 quarters of this game. I think that's what told the story ultimately in this one because SMU just was outclassed in those middle 2 quarters because SMU led after the first quarter 7-3, and they outscored Cal 21-14 in the fourth quarter of this game. But Cal outscored SMU 21-7 in the second and third quarters of this game, including 21 unanswered points by the Golden Bears. Cal had 250 yards in the second and third quarter. SMU had 133, 6.8 yards per play compared to 4.4, 0.363 EP per play compared to 0.036. SMU had chances to win this game, but they couldn't make stops ultimately on Cal. It also hurts Dalton. And a great shout out that I got a DM last night from Henry Clay's drinking buddy, who's an SMU fan. SMU, if you remember, had a star kicker in Colin Rogers going into the year. He is no longer with the team. He was kicked off the team. They had a bit like a 50-yard field goal to tie the game last night with basically no time left. They missed the kick pretty badly. Have to wonder if Colin Rogers was still with the program, if he would have made that kick. But obviously he's no longer with the program. But the middle 2 quarters overall for SMU cost the Mustangs a chance at an ACC title and also at an automatic playoff spot.
No, absolutely. I mean, when you look at when you get in these big games on the road and these situations where a team like Cal with an interim coach has nothing to lose, you better be ready in all 3 phases. Absolutely. And look, offensively, took them some time to get the engine running. They got hot in the fourth quarter because we know once this SMU team gets momentum, they can really get it going. Defensively, they weren't good enough in the secondary all night. And then special teams, like you mentioned, it can cost you a game. So absolutely, I think credit to Cal. I really think this comes down to, though, Cal just coming out and playing, arguably as a team, their best game of the year, but certainly, again, Jaron Chiave's Saga Politelli, just it was a different level, this game, than what we'd seen all year. We saw him make great throws against Oregon State. He was really good, basically hitting the Jacob DeJesus button over and over against Louisville, winning big games. But this was as good as a quarterback, a young quarterback could play.
Our guy D. Sauter back in the chat right now, Maryland fan, just going through it. I love this guy, man. The message he says about Maryland football is tough.
I mean, same
4-0 and now 4-8.
Same lesson there. Malik Washington is your one. That's your big hope. You got to keep him around, or I don't know where it goes from there. But that's a kid that needs a supporting cast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Help him out. Find a way to run the ball there in Maryland. You might be able.
Big win for Cal. Maybe Nick Rolovich, who has been a head coach before Dalton, maybe
he's in the running.
Maybe he's in the running. He definitely is in the running, I would say. But maybe, they go with him as the permanent head coach. We'll see. Big win for Cal. SMU no longer has a chance of making – no, they're not making the ACC title game right now. They're not making the playoff either. We'll get to the next 2 games in just a second, Dalton. We have a couple big hires in the SEC, not LSU. We don't know that yet. But Ryan Silverfield has been hired by Arkansas as the new head coach.
Wow.
Alex Golesh to Auburn. Has just happened to.
Wow, he got the Auburn job.
Yep.
That's, I'll tell you, that's a job of the open ones because we didn't know with Ole Miss yet. That's actually the job at Auburn where that I really thought Alex Golesh would be a really good hire there. Mm-hmm. I think that's outstanding stuff. Both of those guys, and we talked about Silverfield and the Arkansas connection there, but that's just a fun plot twist too because, again, last week it was reported that Golesh was ready to take the Arkansas job.
Yep.
And then USF and his reps and even him himself was like, that's not true. I didn't take the job.
I have to wonder if he might have been pissed off by that getting leaked like that. That might have happened.
Yeah, that's true. There were rumors that was also.
I think the other thing is, too, when Florida decided they're out of the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes, they moved on. I think John Summerall to Florida is happening today. They might have moved on to John Summerall, which takes away Auburn's top candidate. Auburn might have talked to Golesh and said, hey, we kind of want you now. I would argue Auburn's a better job than Arkansas. Golesh probably said, you know what? I'm not signing the Arkansas job. I'm going to go to the Auburn instead. That's what I think happened.
I think for Auburn especially, I think that's an outstanding hire. I
love
really
that,
do.
yeah.
Golesh's ability, he's shown an ability to recruit at USF. They'd been putting up basically the best recruiting classes of any group of 5 team lately. So Auburn's not going to have a recruiting issue. He's got, at least as a coordinator, SEC experience from Tennessee. And if you're trying to jumpstart your offense and your quarterback situation, as we know has been an issue at Auburn, who better than Alex Golesh coming in running that Josh Heupel-style offense? Now, I have a feeling, I don't know if you were going to ask me this next or not, but that leaves an interesting situation because I think unless he leaves, well, I think Deuce Knight would fit in Alex Golesh's offense pretty well.
He would.
If Deuce Knight stays, he would fit. If not, then we also have, keep in mind, the Byron Brown question.
I was just going to say, Byron Brown transfer over? He still has one more year.
I think that's a Deuce Knight question first because I feel like internally at Auburn they really believe in Deuce, and Deuce is younger. I get it. He was true freshman this year, correct? If at least 2 years of Deuce Knight and what he at least showed you through one start. I think there's an interesting quarterback situation there, but I think both of those are excellent hires. I really do. Silverfield's one we were looking at with Arkansas, obviously right across the border there, and Golesh. I think Auburn getting Golesh and Golesh getting to go to Auburn with all the talent they have. They need the jump start on offense and in the passing game. That's the guy to get.
I was just going to say that is exactly the kind of guy you want to get. The Auburn, what has gone wrong in the Hugh Freeze era at Auburn? They had great defenses. They had talent at running back and all that can run the football. They could not throw the football for the life of them. You hire a guy in Alex Golesh now who has helped Byron Brown turn into one of the best quarterbacks we have in college football right now. He has a tremendous offensive mind, comes to that Josh Heupel tree as well. And you see how good that offense is for Josh Heupel at Tennessee. That could happen at Auburn as well. So I think Andrew Harbaugh saying Byron Brown throwing a Cam Coleman to feed families. It absolutely would. It absolutely would. Also, can I just say real quick, thank God Auburn's not promoting DJ Durkin to head coach full time.
Why?
Listen, the look of Hugh Freeze, who's had a lot of off-field issues in his own, and then you go to DJ Durkin as well, who had some issues at Maryland. I'm very happy that they went a different direction. If you won the Iron Bowl last night, it would have been different probably, but I think it's good that they went in a different direction there.
I also think you want another fun side tidbit. This is something because my brother, as the USF alum, right, is always speculating like, just what would happen with USF if Golesh left. You know the first name he brought up to me that maybe returning to Tampa. What do you think of? He's been looking for a job. What do you think about maybe a John Gruden to USF?
I would love that. I
know he was hunting an SEC job, but if he can't get that, would he go back home to Tampa, take over the Bulls? Because listen, I'm going to tell you something too. That USF job, that might be the most attractive opening of anything in the Group of 5 right now. You get a new stadium in a couple of years, really good this year. Yeah, obviously, they've shown they can recruit at a high level, even on par with some lower level like ACC and Big 12 teams. I think, look, this is – and now – you're talking about Golesh and Silverfield. I don't know who else. And if Summerall's going to Florida.
I think he is.
Who the hell's going to Ole Miss?
Oh, actually, no, that's the question. Actually, Summerall could go to Ole Miss or Florida. That's actually.
If that's something then. And then, okay, so who's going to the other one then? If Summerall bails and goes to Ole Miss, who's going to Florida?
I think Jed Fish. I would probably say Jed Fish.
Drinkwitz signed his extension. That's not happening.
No, that's not happening. Real quick on Arkansas, I love the hire too. Silverfield obviously beat Arkansas this year too, so they're familiar with him. I think it's a good hire. He's done a good job of that Memphis program overall. I think it's a pretty solid hire overall. This is kind of the guy we expected for Arkansas to get. Then they had some other names get floated out there, but I think it's a pretty good hire overall. Silverfield going to Arkansas.
Agree. He's won a lot there at Memphis, and I think with Arkansas they're just trying to find consistent winning. And now, I mean, the big thing for me is, man, you got to find some defense there in Arkansas. You got to play better defense. The last couple of years, even this year, their offense was really good. They got to find a way to make stops. If Silverfield can find a way to do that and add some balance to this team, then they can obviously get back. And that's a tough job, too, when you talk about, being at near the bottom of the SEC for the last handful of years, right, where it's like we're trying to compete with the big boys. Look how many teams are going to make the playoffs. So it's going to be a process there, but I think if he can add more balance to that team, they can figure it out.
We're getting some answers now in the coaching search. Lane Kiffin probably should go to LSU a little bit, so that'll open up another job in the SEC, but Yeah, so getting some answers on Arkansas and Auburn. No idea on Penn State.
I was just going to say, it feels like we've had the least noise of any team on Penn State.
I have
just nothing.
Zero clue. I think Lincoln Riley is currently the betting favorite right now. I don't know where that's coming from.
Oh, like Nick Saban at LSU,
yeah,
right?
We'll see. I have no idea. I'm going to, one way or another, I'll be shocked with Penn State probably. But, yeah, some big hires that are probably going to happen today. And we just got a couple of them in the SEC in Arkansas and Auburn. Arkansas hiring Ryan Silverfield from Memphis, and Auburn hiring Alex Golesh from USF. All right, final two games here in this review. We'll go quickly through these. Duke beating Wake Forest 49-32, and because SMU lost to Cal, 7-5 Duke is going to Charlotte for the ACC championship games. Go over the highest grade players, starting off with the Blue Devils. Highest grade player for Duke was Brian Parker II, the offensive tackle, 80.6. Mekhi Jones, the safety, 78.6. Nate Shepard, the running back, 77.2. Jaden Francois, the safety, 76.7. Aaron Hall, the D tackle, 74. Darian Mensah, 69.6. For Wake Forest, their highest grade player was actually Robbie Ashford. What a performance by him. A career-high 90.4 grade for him. Sawyer Racanelli, 77.2. Langston Hardy, the edge rusher, 75.9. Melvin Ciani, 73.3. Then you had wide receiver Carlos Hernandez, 72.2. Karen Prunty, 68.4 the corner. Dalton, what's the story in this game?
I tried to find some other things on this, but I think we agree. On both sides, it's turnovers. Wake Forest, 4 turnovers. Duke didn't have any. I'll get more on their side in a minute. But Duke had 2 touchdowns directly off of those turnovers. There was also a fumbled snap from Wake Forest that led to a turnover on downs. There was a 20-yard punt that might as well be a turnover at that point. They gave Duke another short field for a touchdown. Duke had 4 drives in this game, 4 touchdown drives that they only needed 35 yards or less to score. I mean, you just can't give a good offense and a really good offense in Duke when they're playing clean football that short of fields consistently, right? And Wake Forest offense outside of the turnovers was really good. They created a lot of explosive plays in this game. I think was it 20 explosive plays I saw they put up in this game on Wake Forest on offense, but turnovers will kill you, short fields will kill you. And Duke, look, we've talked about this a lot. Turnovers have been the story all year. In their 7 wins, Max, they've turned the ball over 1 time, and that was in the first game of the year against Elon, all right? So think about that. 6 games since then, no turnovers in those wins. 5 losses, 11 turnovers. Duke's pretty simple, actually, for as much talent as they have and everything like that. If they turn the ball over, they're going to lose. If they don't, they're going to win. They won the turnover battle decisively here. There's really nothing else about it here. Wake Forest did a lot right in this game, but the big mistakes that they made were way too big for them to overcome.
Yeah, that's exactly my stat to tell the story to is turnovers in this one. Because like you mentioned, in nearly every single one of Duke's losses this year, Duke shot themselves in the foot, and they could have won almost every one of those games too, but their turnovers and their mistakes are why they lost. It was the opposite in this game because Wake Forest turned the ball over 4 times. Duke had 0. Duke scored touchdowns on 6 of their 7 red zone trips in this game as well. So great job by Duke overall for not shooting themselves in the foot and getting it done in this game. Wake Forest had nearly 100 more yards than Duke. Robbie Ashford had a 90.7 passing grade, a career high for him with 6 big-time throws, but it was all wasted because of how often they turned the ball over. So again, so many times when a great Darian Mensah performance was wasted by turnovers, this is wasted by Wake Forest as well, by Robbie Ashford and all the turnovers that Wake Forest had too. So honestly, it's kind of the opposite for Duke in so many of their games this year.
No, absolutely. I mean, you think about some of the big games. Now, it's just so funny because they end up in the ACC title game anyway, despite the errors, the self-inflicted errors against Georgia Tech. That was one that stuck out to me. I mean, we've seen in just all of their games, all their losses, I should say, huge back-breaking mistakes. I mean, this team lost to UConn.
Yeah.
Not that it matters. They're out of conference. It's proven Pat Narduzzi's theory, right? But
it does matter in the fact that there's no chance to make the playoff now. There's no chance.
Well, and this is the thing now. Now we have
can they, if JMU loses, say? Is there any other group of 6 team that can take the spot from Duke?
I don't think so. I mean, you look at it wouldn't be Troy because they'd be 9-4.
We do know the Mountain West title game, by the way.
It is, yes. We get a rematch.
Yeah.
Where the computer spit out a rematch in
UNLV Boise State.
Yeah, Boise gets to host UNLV again.
I feel like Would Duke be above UNLV or Boise State? 8-5 Duke. That's tough.
Because Boise's lost, 3 games?
Yeah.
UNLV has lost 2 or 3 games. I don't even, at this point, that nonsense. Because if Troy were to beat JMU,
UNLV might be above Duke.
It wouldn't be the MAC champion. I don't think
Duke would. UNLV would be 11-2. They'd probably get in over 8-5 Duke.
Yeah, they would pick them. Yeah, they would.
So Duke most likely is. Yeah.
I think what would happen too. I think this is the case anyway. We sort of disagree on this, so we might get into it more later. I think if Duke wins I think the American champion, the winner of Tulane North Texas, is locked in anyway. I think that's
by the committee's ranking. Yeah, I don't know if I would say that yet,
especially if it's Tulane. If Tulane wins, they're already the highest ranked one, and they might get maybe this is a week where North Texas gets ranked. That's another bit of suspense: is will North Texas and/or James Madison get ranked in the back end there? And it's clear that Tulane will be higher than them anyway, which I think is right. I have no issue with that. Maybe they beat the eventual ACC head-to-head. See that? Maybe they'll have beaten the eventual ACC champion Duke. But in ironically the Darien Mensa Bowl. Wow, wouldn't that be something? Man, oh man. But either way,
I think Duke is probably not getting in. They need a lot of chaos. They need Group of 6 for that to happen.
They would need James Madison to lose to even have a chance.
Yeah,
and then even I don't even
Boise State to win. I don't know.
I don't know. It is now a mess.
Anyways,
we're dealing with a mess. Both in the top 12, the bottom 12, in between, whatever you want. It's all just a mess.
If Duke wins, there's probably a good chance the ACC gets no teams in the playoff this year. Who do you want to shout out though in this Duke win?
Look, their offensive line has been really good all year. Brian Parker and those guys up front, once again, especially in the run game, 78 PFF grade overall, 79.4 run blocking grade, and I do think that is a threat to this Virginia team that they're going to play, is that they're good in the trenches. And Duke, I don't think there's a team in the country more also that they have so much talent offensively, especially. It's just if they play clean football, they're really good. And if they don't, they're really bad. We've seen that in these games. So that's what it's going to come down to eventually. But their offensive line, Brian Parker and those guys up front, are always a threat. I think that's going to be another intriguing storyline next week. Their offensive line against a Virginia front seven that's playing better than ever right now.
Yeah, and Nate Shepard was the beneficiary of that offensive line. Ran for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns and 23 carries. Broke 6 tackles too. 90.6 receiving grade as well. He caught all 5 of his targets for 60 yards and 4 first downs. He averaged 4.3 yards per route run, which is crazy for a running back. He is a true freshman, and he's been a star all year for the Blue Devils as a true freshman running back. So big game for him. And Duke now going to the ACC title game with the win over Wake Forest and Cal's win over SMU. Before we move on, Dalton, I know our producer's probably going to kill us for all the breaking news. John Sumrall officially is Florida's head coach.
Boy, the American Conference.
Yeah, just getting decimated.
Now, the question is he gonna get to coach Tulane this week and beyond? Do we know this yet?
Don't know.
That feels like a big deal.
Yeah. Actually, I haven't seen anything about that yet. But he is officially the head coach of Florida now.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, look at the American. There's going to be nobody left.
Who's Ole Miss going to get now?
I mean, and Eric Morris is gone too. He's going to Oklahoma State.
Yep. Love that hire too. We haven't talked about that hire.
Think about
Great
that.
hire by Oklahoma State, by the way.
You got the American's going to look a whole lot. Man, they're opening things up for FAU next year. I'm telling you.
Ken? Was it New Patolo, the Navy coach? Is he
not anymore. He's not there anymore.
Oh, who's the Navy head coach?
That's
right now?
Brian Newberry.
Yeah, Brian Newberry. Sorry,
Niumatalolo's at I think San Jose State. Yeah. Brian, I mean,
right. Brian Newberry might be the head coach at Ole Miss.
There's been rumors forever about Jeff Traylor going places. Man, you might just be replacing.
I don't know who the next Ole Miss coach is going to be.
You're replacing darn near everybody in the American.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, that's crazy. But hey,
John Sumrall.
All right, Gators. Back to Louisiana for another one.
Yep.
All right.
Last game in our review. Virginia beating Virginia Tech 27-7. I'll go through this quickly. It was kind of a blowout win for Virginia, but they locked up a spot in the ACC title game with the win. Maddox Marcellus, 75.2, the linebacker. Corner, Emmanuel Carnley, 73.2. Safety, Ethan Minter, 70.5. Linebacker, James Jackson, 69.9. Daniel Rickert, the edge rusher, 69.6. Chandler Morris, the quarterback, 78.2. For Virginia Tech in the loss, cornerback Isaiah Brown-Murray, 80.3. Linebacker Jaden Keller, 74. You had defensive tackle Kamari Copeland, who had a 71.9. Cody Heisman, 71. Another D tackle, Jordan Bass, 70.5. Kyron Jones, 53.3. Dalton, what's the story in this game?
Just a clinic on defense by the Cavaliers. I mean, 77.7 team defensive grade. Their defense is getting even better as the year is going on. There's only so many ways I could put this for Virginia Tech, but I'll put it in the context of explosive plays. They had 4 explosive plays the entire game. 2 in the first quarter, 2 on their very last drive. Okay? 111 yards on those 4 plays. 86 on the other 43. 2 yards per play the rest of the game. They only, we've talked about this with Virginia Tech. They can run the ball for sure. Max, they only completed 4 passes the entire night. In a game they were down the entire night. And 57 of their 78 passing yards were on the final play. Virginia's defense is getting better and better at all 3 levels, and they did it without their leader at linebacker, Cam Robinson, in this game. And Chandler Morris looked clean football, ran the ball reasonably well. Virginia just physically dominated this team, and that's probably of all those things that stick out to me the most is that in a game they were down the entire way, Virginia Tech completed 4 passes. So, James Franklin, passing game concern, gotta nowhere to go but up from here.
Got to fix it. Yeah, and Virginia Tech could not run the ball well in this game either. Negative .163 EPA per run. I said in the preview, if Virginia slowed down the run game, they win this game, and they did just that. Only 129 yards on the ground for the Hokies, second fewest all year, only ahead of the South Carolina game in week 1. 4.5 yards per carry, 0.6 yards before contact per carry. The Virginia's defense dominated up front, the line of scrimmage. The linebackers cleaned it up as well. 80.2 run defense grade as a team, and I'll go into linebackers real quick. It's my most impressive. Virginia's linebackers were outstanding in this game. 81.6 combined grade from the UVA linebackers. 3 of the 4 who had snaps for Virginia at linebacker had 70-plus run defense grades in James Jackson, Maddox Marcellus, and Landon Danley. Caleb Hardy had a 70.7 coverage grade as well. And this Virginia Tech offense is not easy for linebackers to handle with Kyron Jones and his ability on the ground and Terrion Stewart and the other running backs that Virginia Tech has as well. But Virginia has done a great job with those linebackers this year, and they stepped up in this game as well. So Virginia, those linebackers did a great job against a really difficult offense to contain. Those linebackers stepped up in this game and shut down this offense.
And again, without the leader of that group, Cam Robinson, they stepped up anyway, especially Maddox Marcellus. He was really good in this game. So, yeah, Virginia just, there's always the threat of the rivalry and just the 2 teams hating each other, and it could be close, but they really, it just felt like the entire way, especially after the first quarter, that Virginia Tech had no shot to win this game. Virginia proved they were the better team on the field, as they've been doing maybe in some closer games. It almost feels weird to finally get a blowout win from Virginia, just taking care of business pretty easy. But I think that speaks to the fact, too, that they're getting better as the year goes on, and now they set themselves up against a Duke team that on their field they beat by 17 just a few weeks ago. So Virginia's got to be feeling really good about themselves right now.
Who was your most impressive real quick in this game?
Look, I think, honestly, it's just Chandler Morris and his ability to manage and understand the assignment. It's not flashy. 21 of 35, 182 yards, a 73.8 passing grade. Also had 4 carries and a rushing touchdown. But I think just if he plays clean football, they are really good because their defense is getting better. You've been talking about the run game with Jamari Taylor. This is just a good, solid, balanced football team. And, I think we will see what happens in a rematch with Duke. Rematches are always weird, and if Duke plays clean football, then they can be a solid team too, especially offensively. But this Virginia team, and led by Chandler Morris and just what he's done coming in from North Texas this year, you got to give him just a boatload of credit. I mean, at this point now, with the possibility of winning the ACC right in front of him, the biggest surprise in college football.
Yeah.
It's just crazy what we've seen now from this Cavaliers team, and it feels like they get better every week.
Yeah, Virginia against Duke in the ACC championship game this upcoming weekend. I'm sure the ACC conference is rooting for Virginia in that game so they can get at least one team in the college football playoff this year. But can't wait to preview that game on Tuesday in our preview show. Virginia getting a massive win over Virginia Tech and clinching a spot in the ACC title game. All right, before we get to our Heisman rankings and the playoff bracket right now, I've got to talk about the sponsor of the show. That is Fabric by Gerber Life. Parenting is filled with high-pressure decisions, and it can be hard to tell if we've made the right choice for your kid's future. But here's a simple choice that you can make today that can have a meaningful impact on your kid's future. That's opening a UGMA Kids Investment Account with Fabric to start their investment journey early and give them a financial head start. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can't invest when they're minors, but a UGMA Kids investment account allows you to invest on their behalf now and gives their investments more time to grow. It's all online. Setting up an account could take you just 5 minutes. Get started investing with as little as $1 a day, then manage your child's account and monitor their investments right from your phone. There are no contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, and they're SIPC insured up to $500,000, plus no commission fees and just a low flat monthly maintenance fee. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect the family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. That's meetfabric.com/PFFcollege, meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. It's a paid promotion for the Fabric UGMA product and not for investment advisory services. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Custodial services provided by Apex Clean Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Terms may apply. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right, Dalton. We both actually have the same exact top 5 on our Heisman list. So I think instead of us just going through individually our top 5 lists, let's just do, you do number 5, I'll do number 4. We'll just go from there on. So who's our, I should say, collective number 5 candidate for the Heisman Trophy?
Number 5, the guy with the highest rushing grade in college football, the best running back in college football, Jeremiah Love. Had a modest game this week against Stanford late at night. Notre Dame taking care of business. I believe it was only 84 yards rushing in this game, but he's one of the best players in the country. He's one of the most talented players in the country, and I think still I had him number 5 last week. Well-deserved to be number 5 again this week.
Yep, 92.9 grade on the year for Jeremiah Love, highest among all running backs in college football. At number 4 for both Dalton and I is the highest graded defensive player in college football. That is Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker from Texas Tech, who also had a couple rushing touchdowns in this game.
I believe he's the highest graded player, period.
Highest graded player overall in college football is Jacob Rodriguez this year. A couple rushing touchdowns for him against West Virginia, and he's been the best defensive player in college football this year. And 93.4 PFF grade right now. 95.3 run defense grade, 92.8 coverage grade. He has the highest run defense grade in the country and the highest coverage grade in the country for all linebackers too. He's easily the best linebacker in college football, and I'd argue right now he should go to New York for the Heisman ceremony.
Oh, pardon me, actually. He's fell just a sliver behind one other guy on this list.
Oh, okay.
Well, here we go. Number 3, we've got Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. Not his highest graded game against Purdue, kind of modest also. I believe it was 112 passing yards, 3 total touchdowns in that game, leading the nation with 38 total touchdowns. But big opportunity this week. I think this top 3 is where it gets really, really tight. You could make an argument for any of the 3 of them, but if he can find a way to beat Ohio State this week, maybe he jumps from number 3 to that number 1 spot for us, depending on how he plays.
Yep. Number 2 for us is the second highest graded quarterback in college football. That is Diego Pavia, the quarterback at Vanderbilt. Big game, won over it already over Tennessee. Vanderbilt maybe can get into the playoff now with a 10-2 record, but if not, regardless, Diego Pavia has been incredible for Vanderbilt this year, and over the last 2 years, he's turned around that program. Like we said before, Dalton, he might be the most important player to any team in college football right now.
Agreed. And if there was an argument again for him winning it, it is the lesser supporting cast that he has than at a school like Ohio State or Indiana, and B, the rushing value, again, over 900 rushing yards, third most in the Power 4. He adds that dimension where Sayan really hasn't at all, and Mendoza has only added a little bit. So I think when you look at Pavia's chances, maybe, again, it comes down to a low-scoring, kind of ugly defensive Big Ten title game, then it opens the door a little bit more. But number 1, as we've had for a few weeks now, both of us, Ohio State quarterback Julian Sayin, the highest graded qualified player, not just quarterback in the country, moves ahead of Jacob Rodriguez by just a sliver this week. 93.5 overall, the most accurate quarterback in the country. And after an interception on his second throw of the game against Michigan, he was once again just surgical. It's just been unbelievable to watch him all season. The numbers say these guys are all extremely close, all 3 of them, especially on the passing side. Pavia's got a little bit of an advantage as a rusher, but we just have not seen Julian Sayin play a bad game this year. He has been outstanding every single week, and I mean, he's special. I don't think there's anything else we can say about it. To go in, especially after the early interception, and dominate a really good Michigan defense the way that he did, If he's another one, if he does that to Indiana this week, I don't know that there's a case for anybody else.
No, I would agree with that. Yeah, Julian's saying now the highest graded player in college football, not just the highest graded quarterback, highest graded player in college football with a 93.5 grade on the year, right ahead of Jacob Rodriguez at 93.4. Saying is phenomenal. One of those accurate quarterbacks we have charted at PFF in quite some time. He is elite against Michigan and got Ohio State their first win over Michigan in 6 years as well, which is a big talking point, I'm sure. And I do love Diego Pavin. He's number 2 for both of us, but I do believe most likely whoever wins the Big Ten title game between Indiana and Ohio State, as long as the quarterback plays well enough in that game, the winner of that game, the winning quarterback from that game, most likely will be your 2025 Heisman Trophy winner.
And just to reiterate, because we've said it before, Julian Sayin is not just being carried by those 2 receivers. That kid is making freak-level throws, and he is calm and cool through every big situation. He is really the defense is great, obviously, but I would argue his development is the biggest reason that Ohio State is still the best team in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know there's some people in the chat saying, well, they have Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Well, Joe Burrow had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I'm not saying Julian's been that good as Joe Burrow, but, it's possible to have a great quarterback and great receivers.
Is that the same logic? Are we not going to give Matt Stafford?
I was going to say Matthew Stafford.
Is Matt Stafford not going to win the MVP because he's got Nakua and Adams and all those weapons and maybe the best play caller in football? So, look, obviously those guys are going to make each other better. But you just look at all the metrics, the accuracy metrics, everything we have. He's been the best quarterback in the country this year.
Yeah, and now by PFF grade, the best player in the country this year, which is what the Heisman is supposed to go to. So I would argue right now, Julian Sayin, Dalton and I are both arguing Julian Sayin right now, but still one more week, and the biggest game of the year between Ohio State and Indiana, 1 versus 2, that'll probably decide who takes home the Heisman Trophy.
One more week for Jacob Rodriguez, too.
That's true.
See that?
That's true.
You never know what he does.
Against BYU as well. That's absolutely true. Absolutely. All right. Before we get to my playoff bracket, Dalton and I clinched. I won the upset picks. And I also won it in style because I got my Troy pick right as well. So I finished with almost 1,200 points in the year, 1,199 to be exact. Eli 777, and Dalton had 454 on the year. So new record for us because last year I believe the winning score was somewhere in the 900s, and I got 1,200 this year.
Well done. And to finish it in style, well done.
Yeah, very happy about that. Also,
I had to take my big swing. Didn't work.
Yeah, shout out to the No Sunday Show parlay as well. How many? We got 1, 2, 3.
I think we went 7 and 4. Am I counting? Yeah.
Yeah, 7 and 4.
7 and 4.
Listen, I know we need 11 to get the parlay, but I'll take that's progress right there.
7 and 4 betting all underdogs is not bad.
We were going 2 for 12 some weeks.
That might
7 and 4. I'm taking that, man.
Yeah.
That's a building block for next year right there.
I have no issue with that. No, not at all.
That's like Cal getting a win over SMU. Hey, that's a building block for next year. We're gonna come back even stronger next year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. Sometimes you take the end of the season as progress.
So shout out the chat.
Progress is good.
Shout out the chat because we got Troy from me. But we got Navy, you got Vanderbilt, got Clemson, you got Houston, UAB as well. Actually, Michigan didn't win. So 6 and 5, I think. I put that in wrong. So 6 and 5. 6 and 5. That's tough. 6 and 5. I'll take 6 and 5.
I'll take a winning record on
6.
Underdogs,
a little worse, obviously, than 7 and 4. I put that in wrong, but 6 and 5 for the chat overall. Pretty solid. I'll take that.
All right. Well, considering you're the champ this year, I'll let that one slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now let's get to the playoff bracket real quick and what I think the playoff should look like as of right now. Still 1 week left before we get my playoff bracket. Dawn, you tell me what I got wrong here in a second. Let's go over the bye weeks right now. Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, and I have Texas Tech actually as the 4 seed right now. Some wins over BYU and Utah, I think, that are kind of boosting up that resume. So I think they should be number 4 right now. And if they beat BYU, we're going to get a first-round bye. A&M versus James Madison right now in the 5 versus 12. Ole Miss versus Virginia in the 6 versus 11. Virginia, by the way, is not my highest-ranked ACC team, but Miami is not in the conference title game. So instead, I'll put in the highest-ranked team in that conference title game, which is Virginia right now. Oregon against Alabama, BYU against Oklahoma. As for the first 4 out, Texas, Vanderbilt, Miami, Notre Dame. Those are the first 4 out for me in the playoff. Anything that stands out to you in the playoff field?
In that order there? Vandy ahead of Miami?
Yes.
Oh.
I didn't want you to say that because I don't want Notre Dame fans coming at me in the chat. But, yeah, I have Notre Dame 4th out of those 4.
I mean, okay, so a couple things. I think the top 7 I have no issue with. I think there is going to be some suspense at 5, 6, 7 of the order of what's going to go on there, but I think that's solidly the top 7 in some order, and I like the top 4. The biggest discrepancy, and this has been a big argument from BYU fans the whole time, has been wait, shouldn't we be higher?
Yeah.
With just one loss being the Texas Tech.
And it should.
Beating Utah, winning at Cincinnati, winning at Arizona, who is ranked and might be top 20 this week, who just got a big win over Arizona State.
11-1 BYU.
That's always been the biggest discrepancy between yours and theirs, and I get it. I really do.
I mean,
BYU's had a great season.
How is it possible that they overrank Utah and then underrank BYU? It doesn't make any sense. Like, if you hate the Big 12, you hate the Big 12, whatever. But like, you overrank Utah, who's way higher than they should be.
And Arizona on the road when you were down by 10 or 14, that looks like a pretty good win
I don't understand how they can like overrank a team like Utah and then leave BYU where they are. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's really
It's like, well, decide if you think the Big 12 is lesser, whatever. That's your opinion, but like, you can't play both sides of the fence there with that. I don't understand that.
They play both sides, so they always win.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how it works. But either way, that's always been the biggest discrepancy. And then actually the biggest argument I would have, I think it's going to be the American. In this scenario, if Virginia wins, Duke wins, we got a whole other problem. But if Virginia wins, I think and maybe this is a right now versus getting a possible ranked win on either side thing. But
it's currently right now.
I think it'll end up being the American champion in this scenario, whether it's Tulane or North Texas, either one. I just think at that point they would both have more quality wins because you're talking about, yes, Tulane has the 2 losses, and one was pretty handily to UTSA, which apparently just never loses at home. But the other one being to Ole Miss, I can honestly just kind of excuse that. Mm-hmm. I think that it's just going to be too many quality wins. Like Tulane, Duke, Northwestern, and North Texas at that point possibly ranked. And then they beat Memphis as well, which is still a solid win. The problem for me with James Madison is they've beaten one team with a winning record, Old Dominion, and maybe a second one this week if they beat Troy and they're in this scenario, whereas North Texas at least will have this win. They will have, I think the win against Navy by 14 over Navy is better than just about anything James Madison has done. I'm not trying to rip James. They're a really good team. I just think if you're looking at resumes head-to-head like that, I'm looking at Tulane and North Texas, and one of them is going to beat the other this week and get another.
That's
really
what I'm saying. It's most likely going to be the American champ. But right now, I put James Madison over either.
I also think that's another bit of suspense again this week. Will either North Texas and or James Madison get ranked this week? I thought one of them might have got ranked last week, but clearly there's also kind of this slight towards them because there was a bunch of teams that moved up last week, but not Tulane. So maybe they're stuck at 24 again, or however that's going to work. But that's going to be. But I still think it's going to be the American champion. I think JMU is rooting for a Duke win in that ACC title game.
And for anyone wondering, I know this is a big controversial topic right now. I don't think Notre Dame has a resume to get in at 10-2. I think you can even argue Vanderbilt has a better resume, Miami has a better resume, Texas 9-3 Texas. I would even argue it's a better resume than Notre Dame. And again, if you want to put in the 12 best by whatever metric you want to use for that, I think Notre Dame probably is one of the 12 best teams, but I personally would subscribe to the most deserving philosophy there, and I don't think Notre Dame, with their 10-2 record, is most deserving. I think they beat up on a lot of pretty bad teams this year. They beat Pitt, of course. They beat USC, of course, which are 2 good wins, but I just think there are teams ahead of them that have 10-2 records, and even at 9-3 Texas, I think that have done more this year to deserve a spot in the field. I personally would not put Notre Dame in the playoff. They're going to make the playoff by the way the committee is ranking them right now, and that's what's going to happen is whatever. But right now, I would not put Notre Dame in the playoff.
Yeah, I get it. And especially head-to-head with Miami when you look at what Miami just beat Pitt, also at Pitt, by a bigger disparity. I think it gets really weird if you almost, I don't know, it's weird because they could get knocked out if they both win. But do they need one of Alabama or BYU to win? So, because the problem is, what if we do get to a point where Miami's right next to Notre Dame? It's kind of hard to justify it.
Yeah.
If they get to within one spot, they've been keeping them at arm's length. And this isn't about Notre Dame and anything they did wrong, but they've been keeping them at arm's length. If they're right next to each other at, say, eventually 10 and 11, that could be a real problem.
Yeah.
Actually, I should say, like, if Alabama loses and BYU wins, I would jump BYU over Notre Dame easy. And then if it's Notre Dame 10 and Miami 11 in that argument, I'd go, well, we watched them play each other.
Yeah.
And actually, for 3/4 of that game, Miami was decisively the better team.
Yeah.
Fun one. Fun arguments we have in college football.
I don't care when a game is either. That's another argument. It's like, oh, it was week 1. I don't care when it is. It happened. Happened this year.
Unless there was some major injury that would alter that.
Yes, exactly. That matters too. But like, there's week 1 that happened this season. It should count. It's 1/12 of the resume. No matter when it happened, it's 1/12 of the resume. So
certainly the rest of the week, the next week,
it's going to be
quiet about that.
It's going to be a lot. And I understand if they get in, I'm not going to complain too much about it. Notre Dame's a great team. I'm sure we'll maybe make a run in the playoff team. Maybe could win the whole thing the way they're playing right now. But I'm just saying, resume-wise, which is how I subscribe to, I would not put Notre Dame in right now. Do you want to go over the games that we have in conference title weekend this week?
Absolutely, Max. We have a set number 9 previews for you because we're doing all 9 conference title games. Game of the year in the Big Ten in Indianapolis, Ohio State, Indiana in the SEC, Alabama and Georgia. Rematch between BYU and Texas Tech in the Big 12. We, of course, get the possible madness, the circus scenario between Duke and Virginia in the ACC. Mountain West, we get a rematch from, is it the last 2, I think now? Is this the 3rd year in a row? It's Boise.
Oh, my God, yeah, it is.
I think it's the third year in a row. The computers wanted to see Boise UNLV again, so be it. Fixing a 4-way tie there. We've mentioned James Madison hosting Troy in a huge game for their potential playoff hopes. In the MAC, we have Western Michigan and Miami, Ohio. Miami getting in there. At least one Miami's playing in a conference title game this week. They got in by virtue of a 3-way tie. Kennesaw State. How about Kennesaw State, the jump they've made? They're going to Jacksonville State for the Conference USA title. And as we mentioned, Boise hosting UNLV. And, in the American, I almost missed the big one. The American, North Texas, Drew Mestmaker and that crew. That's the weirdest suspense. Going over to Tulane is Eric Morris, I believe, is going to be coaching.
He is coaching.
Will John Summerall be coaching?
I don't know.
Down at Yeoman Stadium in New Orleans? What a ball game that's going to be. Could they both be ranked? Is it guaranteed that the winner goes to the playoff? We've got a lot of suspense in conference title week. 9 games that are all going to be really fun, and we've got previews of all of them.
Yep, previewing all 9 conference title games this Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time here live on the PFF College Football Show. For our producers back there, and Quinn, Tyler, and Eli for Dalton Wasserman, I'm Max Chadwick. We'll see you guys again Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time with our full preview for all 9 conference title games.